Chapter 139. Lord Beast King. Isn't this decision a bit inappropriate? The leader of the Hunting Wind clan shrunk his neck and asked in a probing manner. What he got in response was Lin Yuan's indifferent eyes. The leader of the Hunting Wind clan shrunk his neck again and didn't dare to plead for mercy for the leader of the Boulder clan. He only resentfully retreated to the side. On the other side, 12 Wisdom State beasts slowly stepped into the clan land of the Broken Stone clan. They glanced at the chaos in the field, then stood beside Lin Yuan very indifferently. The eyes of the two leaders of the Hunting Wind and Winter Wolf clans twitched as they witnessed this scene. Their hearts shivered. This black snake was indeed very cunning. He had actually prepared a backup plan. Although these 12 wisdom perception demonic beasts couldn't change the situation of the battle, it wasn't a problem to delay them. Once the two followers of the black snake finished the battle, they would be able to sweep away these rotten fish and shrimps with their wisdom perception 5th rank strength. Of course, they didn't know that these wisdom realm monsters weren't called over by Lin Yuan. They had rushed here early because they wanted to see what kind of person the Imperial Envoy was. If they could form a connection with that person, they could even leave the Stoneclaw forest with the Blood Claw. They wouldn't need to listen to the Black Snake's face anymore. When the Boulder clan was in chaos, they had been watching from the sidelines. If the Winter Wolf and Hunting Wind hadn't betrayed them at that time, they might have had another reinforcement. However, because they were too smart for their own good, their plan to overthrow Lin Yuan had come to an end just as it had begun. As for the matter of distributing the territory, that was really part of Lin Yuan's plan. The Boulder clan had been driven to the Scarlet Flame Swamp, but they were still under Lin Yuan's rule. Once the hidden dangers there were cleaned up, the Boulder clan of the 4 great clans would become a chess piece that Lin Yuan could easily manipulate. At that time, they would have to obediently bite whoever Lin Yuan wanted them to bite. Today, the Hunting Wind, Winter Wolf, and the native monsters of the Scarlet Flame Swamp had taken over the Boulder clan's territory. Once the Boulder clan recovered from this, the two sides would become mortal enemies. As for Lin Yuan, at that time, Lin Yuan, who had a cheat, would definitely become a monster that the Boulder clan couldn't afford to offend. Otherwise, he would have died under his own scheme. At that time, the Boulder clan wouldn't be able to do anything to Lin Yuan, so they could only vent their anger on other enemies. No Beast King would casually restrict the power of their subordinates. In fact, the stronger these clans were, the happier the Beast King would be. However, Lin Yuan was different. He was very clear that it was not a good thing for his subordinates to become stronger and stronger. It had nothing to do with his desire to control everything in his hands. It was purely the scheming of an emperor. He did not want himself to die inexplicably under the schemes of his own people one day. He also did not want his descendants to be directly taken over or even eaten by the demon beasts under his command when they took over the demon beast empire that he built. Just like Three-Eyed Ape, although his eyes were still open due to his old age, the 3 clans had already stationed their troops outside the Gravel clan's territory. Boom! The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground resounded. The completely charred Blood Claw fell in front of Lin Yuan. He already looked like he was on the verge of death. As long as Lin Yuan casually added another blow, this commander of the Green Marsh clan, who came with ill intentions, would die in the Stoneclaw forest. Xianyang only took a deep look at Lin Yuan before twisting his snake body once again. He charged towards the battlefield where Wan Yu and the Lizardmen were fighting. In an instant, flames once again soared into the sky. Lin Yuan slowly moved to Blood Claw's side. His leisurely appearance was as if he was taking a stroll. His pair of different-colored eyes stared at Blood Claw condescendingly as he slowly said, "It seems like Commander Blood Claw's plan can't be completed. If you can't get my head, even if you can return alive, you won't be able to get your own territory and become a Beast King." Blood Claw's eyes widened. For a moment, it was speechless. After all, it never would have thought that Lin Yuan actually knew its thoughts. Even more so, it never would have thought that Lin Yuan had accurately guessed that it would make trouble today and had made preparations in advance to counterattack. Moreover, the 2 helpers he found were extremely fierce. "Why don't I help you again?" The corner of Lin Yuan's mouth opened, revealing a sinister smile as he sneered. "If I kill you, the Green Marsh clan will have an excuse to deal with me. At that time, they will definitely send out powerful members to hunt me down. No, no, no. Sir Blacksnake, I am willing to leave the Green Marsh clan and pledge my loyalty to you. Bloodclaw endured the pain and frantically shook its head. This degree of injury could drag any human expert to death, but in front of the tyrannical body of a monster beast, recovery was only a matter of time. Dying here like this? How could that be? Moreover, Lin Yuan could casually find 2 Wisdom Realm level 5 monster beasts. Even the Green Marsh clan might not have this kind of strength. Therefore, the clan behind Lin Yuan must be incomparably powerful. If it could rely on Lin Yuan's subordinates with its peak strength, it might be even easier to become a monster king. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Lin Yuan swept a glance at the half-cleared lizard men and said indifferently, "Pledge loyalty? Sir Bloodclaw, aren't you afraid of harming your loyal subordinates with your words? They're just a bunch of trash. Since they provoked Sir Blacksnake, they deserve to die. Sir Blacksnake, as long as you accept my loyalty in the future, if you tell me to go east, I will definitely not go west." Understanding Blacksnake's intentions, Bloodclaw immediately smiled apologetically and loudly echoed. Sure enough, after their many years of friendship was trampled by Bloodclaw, those lizard men had completely lost their morale. From being able to barely contain Wan Yu and Xian Yang, it directly turned into a one-sided massacre. Very good. You're very sensible. Lin Yuan grinned, but in the next moment, the snake's head suddenly shot out and fiercely bit Bloodclaw's head, slowly injecting its venom into Bloodclaw's body, completely taking away this Wisdom Realm level 5 monster beast commander. Ding! Congratulations to host for killing Wisdom Realm level 5 monster beast, Green Marsh Lizard. Reward: 25 attribute points. When the system broadcast sounded in his mind, Lin Yuan slowly loosened his bite. Level 2 demonic beasts of the Wisdom State can provide him with 2 to 3 attribute points, but level 5 demonic beasts of the Wisdom State can provide Lin Yuan with a full 25 attribute points when he is 4 levels higher than him. As expected, as his level increased, the amount of attribute points he could obtain would also increase. However, under the system's mechanism, he had to kill enemies of a higher level to obtain a large amount of attribute points. After all, with Lin Yuan's current interface, with a difference of 1 or 2 levels, those monster beasts simply could not pose a threat to him. Chapter 140. At this moment, Wan Yu and Xin Yang had also cleaned up the lizardmen. After all, the lizardmen's average strength wasn't even at the Wisdom Realm. It was only because their equipment was too good that Wan Yu found it difficult to deal with them. In a situation where they had lost their morale, their slaughter didn't come as a surprise to Lin Yuan. Nachin slowly walked to Lin Yuan's side, carrying the stone staff on his shoulder, and doubtfully asked, "Lord Beast King, Bloodclaw is an expert sent by the higher-ups to help us clean up the Scarlet Flame Swamp. Let's not talk about whether the higher-ups will have any opinions about killing it, but the most important thing is, how are we going to deal with the Scarlet Flame Swamp?" They definitely couldn't ignore the Scarlet Flame Swamp's deteriorating ecological environment. After all, the Scarlet Flame Swamp would continuously produce inferno demon beasts. These brainless creatures would also continuously attack the surrounding demon beast territories. They were like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any time. Without this trash, could it be that I can't solve the Scarlet Flame Swamp's problem? Lin Yuan had a confident expression as he calmly said, "Rather than having any opinions about me, the higher-ups should be happy. The Green Swamp Clan's hands have stretched too far. The next time they send someone over, it definitely won't be a member of the Green Swamp Clan. Otherwise, wouldn't the Beast King, who is in charge of this area, have no face at all? As long as it's not a member of the Green Swamp Clan, I have room for maneuver and can comfortably get through this crisis." Regardless of demon beasts or humans, they all viewed the Scarlet Flame Swamp as a dangerous place. However, in Lin Yuan's view, the Scarlet Flame Swamp's existence was the world's greatest treasure land. A Wisdom Realm Level 2 Inferno Demon Beast could at least give Lin Yuan 12 attribute points and an Inferno Core. The Inferno Core could create a one-time use Inferno Demon Beast, which would at least give him 10 attribute points. Using this springboard, Lin Yuan's strength could directly increase by leaps and bounds. As for the Inferno Flames, once the demonic fire prawn ape matured, although Lin Yuan couldn't artificially create an Inferno domain, he could extinguish the Inferno Flames in the Scarlet Flame Swamp with just a thought. He could also borrow the Inferno Demon Beast's existence to attack the nearby Demon Beast territories. When Lin Yuan's strength was enough, he could quickly expand. He had a vague premonition that when his territory reached a certain scale, the territory model would definitely bring him considerable benefits. Of course, he wasn't imagining things. This constant premonition might have come from the Russian system assistant's hint. Since the matters here are all settled, we'll be leaving. Xianyang and Wan Yu wriggled their snake bodies in front of Lin Yuan. Lin's and Wan's body. Of the sames, SSS2s with the helpses, Lord. But I hope you understand that cooperating with us is a mutually beneficial matter. When we give you more convenience, you should also think about how to repay us. After saying that, Xianyang hurriedly followed Wan Yu. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes became even colder. These words were already a blatant threat. After all, the Blood Claw had died in the Stoneclaw Forest. If the lord behind them supported Lin Yuan, the Green Marsh clan wouldn't be able to deal with Lin Yuan in a short period of time. In the future, they would have to be more cautious. However, if Lin Yuan didn't admit it, then even if the lord behind them couldn't personally deal with Lin Yuan, they could still lure the Green Marsh clan into Lin Yuan's territory and let them deal with Lin Yuan. All right, then let me see if it's your lord who's eating me clean, or if I'm treating your lord as a further attribute point. Lin Yuan sneered inwardly. Xianyang had indeed helped him. Otherwise, this situation wouldn't have been easy to resolve. However, he knew very well that there was no free lunch in this world. Even if he didn't provoke Xianyang, he would definitely act against him. He could only hope that he could grow a little before Xianyang attacked him. Even if he couldn't counterattack, he needed to at least have the strength to protect himself. Then we'll take our leave as well, Lord Beast King. Xianyang, who looked a little old, walked up to Lin Yuan with the help of 2 frost wolves. The Boulder clan's territory wasn't small. Even a third of it was a considerable amount of profit. If the Frostwolf clan wanted to take over this territory, it would take at least half a year. Lin Yuan nodded. His eyes didn't waver in the slightest. This smart old Xianyang seemed to have seen through some things. Interesting, but that's all there is to it. Lin Yuan said, at present, all the troubles have been dealt with. Although there would still be hidden dangers in the future, he had completely stabilized his position as Beast King. Moreover, he could welcome a period of stable development. Sooner or later, he would be able to step on these arrogant fellows and climb to a higher place. Scarlet Flame Swamp. A huge creature that walked naturally in the flames of purgatory slowly withdrew its indifferent vertical pupils. When it left the flames of purgatory, its blood-red vertical pupils suddenly turned into a faint golden color. Interesting little fellow, he. The huge creature slowly opened its mouth and said. Soon, a black and a red python appeared in front of it. Xianyang lowered his head slightly and said in a deep voice, Lord, that black snake has already entered the trap. He knows very well that if he doesn't cooperate with us, the Green Swamp clan will definitely not let him go. Should we? No need. The huge creature indifferently replied and expressionlessly said, sharpening the axe will not delay the work of cutting wood. The thing I want is still some time away from ripening. During this time, you will stay in the vicinity. If something unfavorable to that black snake appears, you will help it get rid of it. It is a very important part of the plan, so there must not be any mistakes. Speaking to here, it paused. Its golden vertical pupils fell on Xianyang and emphasized, Do you understand? Absolutely not. Yes, this subordinate understands. Xianyang slightly nodded and lowered his body even more. Although he didn't understand why his lord valued that black snake so much, but these words had completely extinguished any thoughts in his heart. Otherwise, if there was any mistake, his end would definitely be much worse than that black snake's. Wan Yu flicked her tongue as she stared at the lord in front of her. Wan Yu, you did well today. You didn't cause that black snake to reject you. After a period of time, find an opportunity to join that black snake. After my matter is done, I will bestow upon you even greater power. After pointing out Xian Yang's thoughts, the huge creature's gaze fell on Wan Yu again. Wan Yu nodded her head with an incomparably obedient appearance. Chapter 141. Ding! Congratulations to host for killing Wisdom Rank 2 Purgatory Demonic Beast, Black Scaled Bull. Received 3 attribute points. Reward 10 attribute points. Received 1 Wild Bull Horn X1. Ding! Congratulations to host for killing Wisdom Rank 2 Purgatory Demonic Beast, Blazing Mastiff. Received 2 attribute points. Reward 10 attribute points. As the Purgatory Demonic Beasts fell one by one, Lin Yuan's ears continuously rang with notifications. It had been a full month since Bloodclaw's death. The entire Stoneclaw forest was in a peaceful state. There were no direct interference from the Beast King's subordinates, and there was no retaliation from the Green Swamp clan. It was as if there was an invisible hand covering everything for Lin Yuan. Occasionally, there would be some chaos, but it was mostly caused by the Purgatory Demonic Beast that rushed out of the Scarlet Flame Swamp. As the Beast King of the Stoneclaw Forest and greedy for the rich attribute points that the Purgatory Demonic Beast brought, Lin Yuan naturally stood on the front lines against the Purgatory Demonic Beasts. The Purgatory Demonic Beasts that were formed at this time were because the Purgatory Flames did not fall in a suitable place. After devouring the surrounding phase, they could no longer continue to grow stronger. Thus, they could only transform into Wisdom Rank 1 to 3 Purgatory Demonic Beasts. Lin Yuan did not feel much pressure when dealing with them. After learning from Lin Yuan's experience, his subordinates patrolled the borders of the Stoneclaw Forest in small groups. When they encountered a lone Purgatory Demonic Beast, they did not even need to alert Lin Yuan. Host: Lin Yuan status: Sky-piercing Black Python, transforming into a Flood Dragon, Realm, 12/20th Talents 1. Identify the enemy's location based on smell, cannot be upgraded. 2. Create an accurate image of a 500-meter radius based on smell, 0/103. Monarch of Water. Your ability to control water has reached a certain level. In front of you, most methods of controlling water flow are so shallow and inferior. As long as you have a thought, you can deprive your opponent of their ability to control water flow at any time. Can be upgraded for Formless Ice. Your control of the ice element has reached a certain level. You are no longer the trash that can only freeze water to injure others. Now, with your water talent, you can even freeze water in the air, turning your ice into formless. Can be upgraded 5. Blood Sacrifice Wish Spell. Make a wish with one's own blood or the blood of other living beings. Can be replaced by attribute points as a sacrifice. Whether the wish is fulfilled or not depends on the strength of the wish and the quality of the sacrifice. Unable to advance 6. Dragon Snake Scale Armor. When the scale armor is in good condition, it can provide the host with a 20% increase in defense. Unable to advance. Can be upgraded. Speed: 50 defense, 40 plus 8 attack, 60 demon power, 300 distributable points, 0 martial arts 1. Golden Body Secrets, 70 out of 102. Tyrannical Song of the World, cannot be upgraded, skills 1. Death Coil, 279 of 302. Poison of Poison Liquor, 111/303. Thorn Whip, 0 of 304. Blood Boil Technique, 5 out of 105. All things have spirit, can be used to communicate with living beings. Cannot be upgraded. Items: Damaged Feather can be repaired. Petrified Eye. The current Lin Yuan was already a true Wisdom Level 2 Demonic Beast. After using up all the attribute points in his hands, Lin Yuan's attributes had reached 150 points. After successfully upgrading, his strength had increased once again. This new martial art, Tyrannical Song of the World, was obtained from the Wisdom Level Demonic Beast gift pack. It was similar to the Lion's Roar technique from Lin Yuan's previous life. However, compared to those techniques that could easily break other people's veins with a roar, it was much weaker. When Lin Yuan spoke loudly, it would give him a tyrannical effect. If it was an existence with a weak will, it would be very easy for Lin Yuan to intimidate them and become a lackey under the Overlord's command. This skill was similar to the Overlord's aura, but unfortunately, the tyrannical song of the world would not give the target an intelligence-lowering aura. Therefore, the stronger the will of an existence, the less they would be affected by Lin Yuan. This skill could only intimidate those small fries. However, these small fries would not dare to disobey Lin Yuan's orders. Perhaps this skill would be useful in the human world. After all, once an existence obtained power, they would no longer put themselves in danger. Over time, the ambition in their hearts would become a joke. Their willpower would also be relatively weak. Therefore, there would often be situations where big figures would be threatened by small figures. However, in the demonic beast forest where the strong preyed on the weak, under the law of the jungle where the strong preyed on the weak, survival of the fittest was the most basic rule. To be able to stand here and see Lin Yuan facing the demonic beasts, all of them were existences with terrifying willpower. Even if Lin Yuan used this skill, he might not be able to gain any benefits. After all, those who truly had the power of a superior were called overlords. Those who acted pretentiously were called tortoises. Lin Yuan, who had been clearly manipulated by the system countless times, naturally would not say stupid things such as a refund. When the time came, the system would naturally put this ability to use, and Lin Yuan could only cooperate and say that the system was awesome or really fragrant. Of course, Lin Yuan's harvest during this period of time was naturally not limited to these few things. His material storage was piled up with a large amount of material stripped from the inferno demonic beasts. As long as Lin Yuan was willing, he could create an army of inferno demonic beasts at any time. It was just that he did not have that many free attribute points. After all, although the creatures he created would not do anything to harm him, they could betray him. Spending a large amount of attribute points to cultivate a profitable subordinate for others was a loss that Lin Yuan was not willing to do. As for the evolved Thorny Whip, Lin Yuan was not too sure whether this skill had been strengthened or directly transformed into another skill. The general attributes were still the same. For example, the power of shock, true damage, and so on were still there. However, the power of shock had expanded to a radius of 100 meters, and the true damage had increased from 1 to 5. The attack method had changed from the initial stabbing to the current whipping. Moreover, when whipping the target, Lin Yuan's snaketail would also give birth to thorny barbs that had the effect of tearing and causing bleeding. However, this would only happen when the skill was activated. Normally, Lin Yuan would still not change his form. In simple terms, it probably changed from a hammer to a mace. Chapter 142. Name, Morostatus. Demonic Fire Prawn Ape can be added realm. 10 tenths innate skill 1. Summon Pseudo Purgatory Fire 2. Boundless Strength. Attack increase by 10% attack. 49 plus 4. 9 defense. 1 speed. 1 allocable points. 0 martial arts. None skills. None. The demonic fire prawn ape, which was first created, had been forcibly raised to the realm of a level 10 demonic beast by Lin Yuan, and finally got rid of the identity of the bottom of the food chain. Lin Yuan was able to accurately grasp the movements of the purgatory demonic beasts in the Scarlet Flame Swamp without a territorial template, basically relying on the innate ability of the demonic fire prawn ape. Even the invisible existence of this senior demonic fire prawn ape scared off a large number of newly born purgatory demon beasts. Those that dared to attack the Stoneclaw Forest were basically wild and untamed beasts. Their numbers were far less terrifying than those that attacked another Beast King's territory. Otherwise, Lin Yuan wouldn't have been able to gather the demon beasts under his command in such a hurry. He might not even have been able to set up a defensive line before being directly taken away by the purgatory demon beasts. Time slowly passed, and everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. However, Lin Yuan instinctively felt that a storm was about to come, as if there was a terrifying existence staring at him from the dark. Lin Yuan speculated for a long time, and it seemed that the only possibility was that mysterious lord. He reckoned that the other party's plan was about to reach its end stage. So, as one of the other party's chess pieces, he would feel this kind of oppressive feeling through his beast intuition. This made Lin Yuan even more certain that the other party didn't have any good intentions. After all, the beast intuition could be said to be abnormally mysterious. It was not affected by psychological factors at all, and would only be triggered when it felt malicious intent. In the forest, countless wild beasts and demon beasts relied on this kind of primitive instinct to fight against unknown dangers. Black Snake, long time no see. Suddenly, a muffled voice sounded like a clap of thunder in Lin Yuan's ears. Lin Yuan raised his eyes, and his gaze fell on Curly Moon, who was slowly twisting her snake body out of the bushes. His heart suddenly sank. What was to come could not be avoided. Curly Moon's sudden appearance was most likely to collect a debt. Even if he wasn't here to collect a debt, this guy must be up to no good since he suddenly appeared in front of him. However, they were partners after all, and they even had a honeymoon period before, so Lin Yuan couldn't just attack or chase them away with a cold face. In a sense, his life was in the hands of the other party. Even if he was willing to give up everything he had worked hard for, he might not be able to escape from the hands of the existence of the desolate demon realm. He couldn't possibly run back to the human territory and become a demon trader, right? Sizing up Wan Yu, Lin Yuan could see that her aura was somewhat weak. Although he couldn't see any injuries on the surface, it was clear that she wasn't in a good condition internally. Lin Yuan couldn't help but ask in a somewhat speechless manner, "You wouldn't have courted death by crossing the entire Scarlet Flame Swamp and directly entering my territory from the other side, right?" After speaking, without waiting for Wan Yu to respond, Lin Yuan suddenly laughed. This was obviously impossible. The purgatory fire that could even devour elemental energy, how could it not cause fatal damage to Scroll Moon? If that was the case, why would monsters and humans need to fear the appearance of the purgatory fire so much? Wan Yu indifferently narrowed her eyes and slowly said, "Although my lord used some methods to pressure the Green Swamp clan, making them not dare to openly deal with you, there is always a limit to something like face. Moreover, you can't be so naive as to think that the Green Swamp clan would casually toss aside the blood feud of an illegitimate child, a commander, and over 30 heavily armored lizard warriors, right? Let me remind you, the members of the Green Swamp clan that died in your territory are already the limit of the strength that Petroglyph can privately mobilize." At this point, Wan Yu paused, a trace of hidden bitterness in her eyes. She clenched her teeth and said, "If it weren't for me, would you still be able to live peacefully? During this period of time, I've cleaned out no less than 100 members of the Green Swamp clan near your territory. Now that I'm injured, you can't be planning to ignore me, right?" Lin Yuan choked for a moment. He couldn't help but admit that Wan Yu's words were reasonable. Perhaps the Green Swamp clan didn't place him and the Crimson Blaze Crocodile King in their eyes from the start, and only sent Bloodclaw to deal with him because of their face. However, after Bloodclaw's defeat, the hatred between the two sides had become a true death grudge. Even if the Green Swamp clan didn't make a move against Lin Yuan on the surface, they wouldn't stop their actions in secret. Not to mention attacking the development of Lin Yuan's territory. Even if it was just an assassination against Lin Yuan, they would at least try to assassinate him once every 2 to 3 days. Lin Yuan didn't expect a direct subordinate Beast King that could directly betray its subordinates to be able to stick to its bottom line and protect him under its wings. Compared to a black snake without any background, the Green Swamp clan was obviously not to be trifled with. Perhaps it was thanks to Wan Yu's secret protection that he was able to live peacefully during this period of time. "Care, I definitely have to care," Lin Yuan responded somewhat helplessly. Then he changed the topic and said, "But as you can see, my Stoneclaw Forest is a remote and desolate place. Even if you want to find a suitable spiritual item for me, who is at Wisdom State Level 2, it will be a problem, let alone you, a Wisdom State Level 5 demonic beast. If you want me to pay you with a fey to treat your injuries, then you might as well just take my life. Consider it as me repaying your previous kindness." Wan Yu blinked and didn't reply. This was because Lin Yuan wasn't lying. The Stoneclaw Forest's output might be countless times more abundant than the demonic beast forest, but it was still considered a remote and desolate place. Other than demonic beasts with clans like men do, or existences like Lin Yuan, who bore the responsibility of a beast king, most demonic beasts would choose to go deeper into the Hungduan mountain range after entering the Wisdom Realm. This was because they wouldn't be of any help to themselves if they stayed here. Wanting to obtain a fey to treat injuries from here was simply a fantasy. One Yu shook her huge snake head and slowly said, "You don't have to worry about this. I have my own preparations. But while I'm recuperating, you have to shoulder the wrath of the Green Swamp Clan. Moreover, you have to announce that all my previous actions were ordered by you and take all the responsibility on yourself. Do you understand?" Lin Yuan sighed in his heart. He instinctively wanted to refuse. After all, who knew what Wan Yu had done during this period of time with her warlike personality? If he didn't handle it well, he might have to face more than just the Green Swamp Clan in the future. Chapter 143. What do you have to worry about? You're just an ant right now. Whether it's Master's anger or the Green Swamp Clan's revenge, you won't be able to withstand it. Even if you aren't willing to take responsibility for what I've done, do you think you can stay out of it? Curly Moon's eyes were wide open as it spoke with an abnormally clear mind. There's a good saying in the human world: when you have too many lice, you won't itch. Do you understand what this sentence means? Curly Moon's words directly overturned Lin Yuan's understanding of this fellow. He felt that Curly Moon's previous boorish appearance was completely a disguise to protect him. Perhaps this fellow was smarter than anyone else. I understand. I'll do as you say." Lin Yuan sighed, but still agreed to this matter. Curly Moon and Profound Sun had helped it kill Bloodclaw. This matter could be investigated as long as one wanted to. If he said that Curly Moon had nothing to do with him, then he was clearly delusional. Even the stupidest of demonic beasts, silly roe deer, wouldn't believe it. Curly Moon slightly lowered its eyes, seeming to be satisfied, and was about to enter a state of recovery. At this moment, Curly Moon's thoughts suddenly connected to Lin Yuan and said meaningfully, "I've caused quite a bit of trouble for you. But believe me, after hearing my words, not only will you not hate me, you will also be very grateful to me. So from now on, no matter how shocked you are in your heart, you must maintain a calm expression on your face. Otherwise, the two of us won't be able to see tomorrow's sunrise." First, although the master behind Profound Sun and I claims to be a dragon bloodline demonic beast, I've seen it cultivating in the purgatory flames many times. This kind of ability is not something a dragon bloodline demonic beast can possess, so I'm 80% sure that the master is definitely a purgatory demonic beast that has lived for who knows how long and has already gained intelligence. Hearing this, Lin Yuan's heart was in turmoil, but his mind was still clear and he still retained a trace of self-control, not letting his shock show on his face. The system said that purgatory demonic beasts couldn't gain intelligence, but this didn't mean that these fellows couldn't mutate. After all, he was in a world where cultivation and possession were very normal. Some things that were originally impossible could happen due to some reason or mutation. So Lin Yuan didn't express any doubts because he hadn't even seen the master. Curly Moon had no reason to lie to him. The second matter, which is the most important thing. Do you remember the mountain range where the purgatory crows fall? Rumor has it that after the purgatory crows die, their corpses will give birth to something called the purgatory heart. As long as a purgatory demonic beast can consume the purgatory heart, it can transform into an existence that can summon the abyss purgatory at any time. That is definitely an existence even more terrifying than the purgatory crows. It's just that the purgatory heart is very difficult to harvest. First, there must be a certain amount of water and ice-type demonic beasts with cultivation to extinguish the purgatory flames around the purgatory heart, allowing ordinary life forms to approach the purgatory heart. Then, a demonic beast with a dragon bloodline in its body must devour it to successfully bring the purgatory heart out. At this time, if a purgatory demonic beast can eat a demonic beast with a dragon bloodline, it would be equivalent to devouring the purgatory heart itself, and there wouldn't be any side effects. It could even refine the dragon bloodline and transform into a true dragon bloodline demonic beast. At this point, Curly Moon clearly paused, as if waiting for Lin Yuan to digest her information. Lin Yuan still maintained a calm expression, but his entire snake body was frozen in place. He thought that the other party was only using him or wanted to train him as a subordinate. Who would have thought that the other party was simply using him as a snake-shaped harvesting machine, and even planned to eat him as well? I know that there is something wrong with you, but I'm not very clear about the details. I only know that a dragon bloodline demonic beast has a powerful energy of unknown origin. As long as the bloodline is pure enough, it can resist the backlash of the purgatory flames after the purgatory heart is devoured. As for the degree of purity, perhaps only the Lord knows. Although the Hungduan mountain range is not a territory ruled by the dragon clan, there are still many demonic beasts with a dragon bloodline in their bodies. After the Lord carefully selected them, he finally set his eyes on you. Coincidentally, you are in trouble, so the Lord directly sent me and Xian Yang to help you stabilize the situation. After a series of exchanges, the exhaustion on Curly Moon's body became even stronger, as if she could fall asleep at any time. Lin Yuan inwardly clicked his tongue. Curly Moon's words were half true and half false, but he could not rule out the possibility that she herself did not know the true situation. At the very least, Lin Yuan understood the coincidences that Curly Moon spoke of too much. As the old saying goes, there is no road in this world, but when many people walk on it, it becomes a road. Coincidences were also the same. What kind of coincidence was it that allowed the Rockhide Beast King, who was far away in the Green Swamp clan, to immediately know about the death of his illegitimate son? And what kind of coincidence was it that made his superior choose to remain silent, allowing the Bloodclaw of the Green Swamp clan to lead a large group of lizard warriors into the territory of the Stoneclaw Forest, ready to kill Lin Yuan, who could be considered a decent beast king at any time? If these incidents were linked together, and there was no shadow of the Lord behind them, Lin Yuan would have directly eaten this big rock beside him. Logically speaking, I don't believe you, and I don't believe the Lord behind you. You and I have no reason at all, and revealing this information to me doesn't seem to have any benefits for you. Forget it. I don't believe that you are the kind of existence that would rather offend your superior than save a strange demon beast for a chance encounter. Lin Yuan slightly narrowed his eyes and slowly said, "From the story I told you, it seems that I really did this to help you, but in reality, helping you is also helping myself. Also, don't look at things from the surface. The enemies I provoked for you are enough to cause you to immediately die the moment you leave the Stoneclaw Forest or the protection of that Lord. With that Lord's current state, it is not convenient for him to meet people. I don't believe that he will personally come to receive you." Curly Moon had an expression as if everything was within her grasp, and said with an expressionless smile, "You can be considered as a witness of the Scarlet Flame Swamp's current state. I think you should be very clear on what kind of fate those demon beasts who relied on their own strength to challenge the flames of purgatory ended up in. Furthermore, the protective flames around the heart of purgatory are at least 100 times denser than normal flames of purgatory. By the time we create a passable area, we might have already been sucked dry." Chapter 144. Looking at Wan Yu's confident expression, Lin Yuan was speechless. That Lord had gathered a large number of dragon bloodline beasts to work for him, and even had to sacrifice the ice and water element dragon bloodline beasts. Under these conditions, Wan Yu was still able to find out so much about the plan. One could only imagine how difficult it was. To carry out such a huge plan, that Lord must have many water element beasts under his command. You can't possibly inform every single one of them, right? Moreover, you were the one who told me the entire plan. Even I don't believe you, let alone the other beasts. Don't tell me that I'm the only one you told." Lin Yuan raised his eyelids and replied jokingly, "It's true that I've only told you about this plan. It's not because I trust you, but because you're the most important chess piece in Milord's plan. Without your participation, Milord's plan can't be carried out. This way, all of us monsters will be safe." Wan Yu maintained her dispirited attitude and slowly said, "The strength of the desolate demons has already exceeded our imaginations. Unless you can invite a great general from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, you and I will just delay our deaths by a bit. If you are willing to cooperate with me, we can still maintain a moment of peace. If you don't believe me, then please do as you wish. I will just leave first and wait for you in hell. Then you should at least tell me what kind of existences you provoked, right? Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and asked. Joy flashed in Wan Yu's eyes, and she quickly said, I can't say the specifics, but I've offended 3 large clans with desolate demon realm experts. There are about 30 mid-sized clans with 10 mountain lords and above. As for the other clans that only have a few mountain lords and river lords to keep up appearances, there are countless of them. When Wan Yu's voice fell, the atmosphere suddenly became quiet. Lin Yuan maintained an indifferent expression on his face. He felt that there was a big danger on top of his head. Moreover, it was the red kind, including the Green Swamp clan. He now had at least 6 enemies in the desolate demon realm, right? This kind of pressure can indeed force Lin Yuan to stay under the protection of the master for half a step. The problem is, has one you not considered that the master is very likely to be unable to withstand such pressure, and then directly give up on Lin Yuan and find other dragon blood monsters to be the harvester? I understand. Lin Yuan nodded with a dark expression. He turned his head to look at Na Qin and the other demonic beasts beside him and said in a deep voice, You guys take Wan Yu back to rest first. I'll be back after dealing with the purgatory demonic beasts. Na Qin nodded and scratched his blood-stained fur. He cast a sidelong glance at Wan Yu and said, Follow me. Wan Yu nodded obediently and wriggled her snake body as she followed behind Na Qin. Lin Yuan sighed, rolled up his snake body, and once again attacked the purgatory beast that had regrouped into a formation in front of him with supreme power. While the undercurrent was surging in the Hengduan Mountains, the humans' crusade against the Black Serpent had never stopped. In a warehouse called Yunlai, demon slayers of all shapes and sizes gathered. Only airborne realm demon slayers were qualified to have a seat in the warehouse, while demon slayers below that could only stand on the street outside. Even so, the street outside was filled with demon slayers who made a living in Mountain Blocking City. The background of this Yunlai warehouse was unknown. It was said to be owned by a high-ranking official in the imperial capital. This warehouse never received ordinary merchants or goods. Only demonic beast flesh, monster cores, and spiritual items were qualified to be traded here. The purchase price was usually about 90% of the market price, but it could guarantee that the goods would be safely delivered to the destination. Therefore, most merchants would choose Yunlai warehouse when trading with demonic beasts. Being a demon slayer was not a noble profession that guaranteed that the demon beasts would not harm ordinary humans. After they traded the demon beast materials to the merchants, it was very likely that they would pretend to be bandits and ambush the merchants on their way out of Mountain Blocking City, making a fortune that did not require any capital. However, for the past 3 days, the entire Yunlai warehouse had been reserved by a demon slayer named Fong Tian, and almost no transactions were accepted. There was no other reason. Fong Tian had taken out 60% of the Liu clan's wealth as a reward. He wanted to form a team to enter the Stoneclaw Forest to hunt down a Wisdom Realm Black Serpent. It was not strange for a family that had been in Mountain Blocking City for nearly 4 generations to accumulate wealth that could rival a country. If not for the Liu clan's influence being so great that they could even challenge the city lord's office to a certain extent, the Liu clan would have been plundered long ago. However, when Fong Tian took out the Liu clan's wealth as a reward, the entire Liu clan remained silent. This made these demon slayers who licked blood on the edge of their blades like sharks that smelled blood and gathered here one after another. Fong Tian, aren't you a member of the Iron Hand Society? Why? Did you come out of your own organization? A level 7 airborne realm demon slayer with a thick machete on his back asked with a chuckle. At the same time, he reached out and touched his belly that looked like a Methria Buddha. His name was Lai Shan, a solo demon slayer. He was ranked 7th on the demon slayer ranking in Mountain Blocking City. His mountain-crushing machete was unparalleled. It was said that he could single-handedly kill a monster of the same level. It was just that no one knew if this was true or not. The Iron Hand Society's leader, and the other members have already died in the previous mission to hunt down the Black Serpent. Now, I'm the only one left in the Iron Hand Society. In addition, a few of the Lu clan's decent juniors have also died in the hands of the Black Serpent. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken out such a huge amount of wealth as a reward for the mission. Fong Tian didn't even turn his head as he replied casually. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone in the warehouse sucked in a breath of cold air. The Iron Hand Society was not a nobody. Although the Iron Hand Society could only be considered as a mid-tier organization in Mountain Blocking City, the strength of the Iron Hand Society alone was enough to make him one of the top 10 demon slayers in Mountain Blocking City. Someone like that actually died in the hands of that Black Serpent? Lai Shan finally stopped laughing, and a serious look appeared in his eyes. Is that Black Serpent really that powerful? The one who spoke was a woman with a voluptuous body and a soft voice. It was just a question, but the charm emanating from it made many men around her feel their blood boil. That woman was called Hua Sanyang, ranked 4th on the Demon Slayer ranking in Mountain Blocking City. It was said that she came from a large sect, and her charm could even capture monsters. The live monsters traded in Mountain Blocking City were most likely her handiwork. It was said that 4 of the top 10 Demon Slayers on the Demon Slayer ranking were Hua Sanyang's lackeys. She could mobilize them with just a word. That was also a rumor in the underworld. Chapter 145. The Black Serpent is powerful, but it's not as terrifying as you think. The last time the commander failed, it was because he didn't expect the Black Serpent to become the Beast King of the Stoneclaw Forest. The Black Serpent is now the leader of the 4 major clans in the Stoneclaw Forest. Fong Tian glanced at Hua Sanyang and calmly replied, "TSK, a large-scale mission? 60% of the Lu clan's wealth isn't enough." A skinny old man wearing black sunglasses suddenly smacked his lips. His name was a secret. He was ranked number 1 among the demon slayers of Mountain Blocking City, and his nickname was Blind Zither. His weapon of choice was a zither with a broken string, and his musical assassination technique could invisibly cause one's heart to break. Yes, it's not enough. Therefore, this mission has 2 parts. Fong Tian slowly raised 2 fingers. Demon slayers who aren't strong enough can deal with other low-level monsters. When you return, take the heads of the monsters to the Lu clan and exchange them for a reward. The total is 20% of the Lu clan's wealth. The more you kill, the more you earn. Moreover, all the materials from the monsters will belong to you. Many of the demon slayers with low cultivation started to breathe rapidly after hearing his words. A group of demon slayers dealing with a group of monsters would be a piece of cake as long as they were well prepared. If all the demon slayers in Mountain Blocking City worked together, they wouldn't be afraid even if the Beast Kings in the nearby regions gathered together, let alone the Stoneclaw Forest. The remaining 40% is for the Black Serpent's life. Whoever kills the Black Serpent will get the biggest share. Fong Tian put down his raised palm. His face was full of calmness. The group of demon slayers looked at each other. No one was the first to speak. However, a smile appeared on Fong Tian's face. 40% of the Lu clan's wealth was used to kill a Wisdom Realm monster. No one would refuse such a deal. For the current Lu clan, not only was wealth not a good thing, but it could also lead to a fatal disaster. After all, his ancestor had nominally died in the Stoneclaw jungle. Although this body of his possessed had the hope of advancing, for a short period of time, he was just an ant that had just entered the airborne realm. Unless he could get the complete bloodline of the Black Serpent, there was no telling how much time it would take to cultivate back. 3 days later, Lin Yuan was soaking in the lake under the nest. He watched Bado practice a set of basic fist techniques from the human world. His heterochromatic eyes flashed with a sharp light from time to time. Bado was actually able to cultivate the energy that humans called zhenqi, according to the cultivation method of humans. Although the current Bado was still heavily injured as a Class 7 demonic beast, in terms of strength, Bado was definitely not much weaker than a Wisdom demonic beast. At the very least, no demonic beast below Class 3 Wisdom demonic beast would have a 100% chance of taking down Bado. According to Lin Yuan's classification of attributes, Bado, A demonic beast with less than 50 points in all attributes could fight against an existence with more than 150 points in all attributes. The cultivation methods of humans were so terrifying. Unfortunately, when Lin Yuan tried it himself, he was unable to replicate this model. After humans reached the airborne realm, they would switch to meditating to cultivate qi. In the early stages, they would first devour the flesh and blood of demonic beasts and convert it into energy. Then, through specific body refining fist techniques, they would temper this energy into their limbs and bones and convert it into Jin Qi. Lin Yuan did not have fists and feet, and the meridians and bones in the snake's body were completely different from that of humans, so he could not cultivate. Of course, Bada was able to fight against a wisdom demonic beast because it was a demonic beast. Even if it was heavily injured, its physique was far superior to that of humans. Therefore, it was extremely difficult for humans to replicate an existence like Badu. First of all, they did not kill all demonic beasts, but their attitude towards them would not be good. Secondly, it was not impossible to make a human baby's physique comparable to a demonic beast, but the price to pay was enough to make any first-rate force fearful. Whoosh! 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 A sharp sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Bada stopped cultivating his fist technique, and Lin Yuan also floated out of the water. A pair of different colored eyes stared at the existence that swept over from afar. When the two sides were 500 meters apart, Lin Yuan was already ready to attack. However, the other party took off the black cloak that covered his body, revealing a handsome face and a pair of mysterious purple eyes. Bada rolled his eyes, panting heavily, and strode to the jungle on the side. Lin Yuan, on the other hand, tilted his head slightly and asked, "Last time we parted on bad terms, I thought you would be sulking for a while. Why are you back so soon?" The purple-eyed youth landed steadily. His chest rose and fell violently a few times, and it took a lot of effort for him to stabilize his breathing. Then, he looked up at Lin Yuan, gritted his teeth, and said, "What did you do?" Lin Yuan's big snake head was filled with even bigger question marks. He didn't have any special hobbies, and he wasn't interested in a good-looking man. Even if he was, he wouldn't cross species and do anything crazy. However, the purple-eyed youth's expression of being turned green by a scumbag still caused Lin Yuan to be puzzled. Whoosh! Another sound of something breaking through the air rang out. A black card with golden patterns fell in front of Lin Yuan. Without waiting for Lin Yuan to speak, the purple-eyed youth said in a cold voice, "The mountain-blocking city's Demon Slayer Guild has issued a bounty. The Liu family is offering 60% of their family's property as a reward to invite all the Demon Slayers in mountain-blocking city and the vicinity to rush to the Stoneclaw Forest to kill you, the black snake that almost killed all the descendants of the Liu family." The Liu family? Lin Yuan instinctively thought of Fong Tian, who had been punched by the three-eyed ape. However, he didn't expect that this guy had only been quiet for slightly more than a month, and he had already started causing trouble for the second time. Moreover, it was such a huge sum. Although he didn't know how much 60% of the Liu family's property was in this world, all industries related to demonic beasts had profits that far exceeded the 3 bands of Lin Yuan's previous life. Therefore, just thinking about how huge this sum of wealth was made Lin Yuan break out in cold sweat. How could the Demon Slayers, who believed in money, reject such a huge sum of wealth? Demon Slayer Guild, Liu family. Heh! Lin Yuan sneered. To privately organize such a large-scale operation, was the mountain-blocking city's Demon Slayer Guild planning to start an all-out war with the Hengduan mountain range? If it was before, Lin Yuan might have considered whether he should run away or not. But now, there was no need for the mountain-blocking city's Demon Slayer Guild and the Liu family to continue existing. After all, he was now a snake that had a big shot protecting him. Chapter 146. Laugh? How can you still laugh? The purple-eyed youth asked in disbelief. Because of the three-eyed ape, the mountain-blocking city had signed an unequal treaty with the Hengduan mountain range. Unless the Stoneclaw Forest Beast Kings voluntarily gave up, the Demon Slayers of the mountain-blocking city were not allowed to enter the Hengduan mountain range to hunt. This also caused the demon slayers with some ability to leave the mountain-blocking city to develop. With regards to the Black Serpent Crusade organized by Fong Tian and funded by the Liu family, although the City Lord Mansion of Mountain-Blocking City didn't publicly support it, they were all in favor of it in private. Recently, a batch of military equipment had quietly appeared on the black market of Mountain-Blocking City. Moreover, only the Demon Slayer masters who participated in the Black Serpent Crusade could purchase it. Such a large-scale operation had not appeared since the last time the three-eyed ape swept through the mountain-blocking city. In comparison, the mountain-blocking city Lord Mansion's troops and the Liu family's Iron Hand Regiment's plan to behead the Liu family's leader could only be considered a small matter. Lin Yuan alone would definitely not be able to handle this matter. However, according to his intelligence, Lin Yuan's river-covering python had been crazily hunting down a large number of demon slayers from various clans under Lin Yuan's orders. It could be said that all the beast kings in the region near the Stoneclaw Forest have formed a grudge with Lin Yuan. If the Stoneclaw Forest was at its peak, it would naturally not put the mountain-blocking city in its eyes. However, the Stoneclaw Forest had been hit by the flames of war several times. The number of high-level demon slayers was extremely low, and the next generation had yet to mature. Moreover, the Scarlet Flame Swamp's Purgatory Flame made it so that no demon slayers were willing to pledge allegiance to Lin Yuan. It was currently in a period of shortage. Moreover, the mountain-blocking city was not the only one participating in this operation. After all, with the Imperial Dynasty's channels, at least 30% of the demon slayers from other cities would participate in the battle. Are you worried about me? Lin Yuan glanced at the purple-eyed youth with a strange expression. He felt an inexplicable panic in his heart. CK. It can't be right. This guy. Don't tell me that he has strange thoughts about a snake like me. I'm worried about you. The purple-eyed youth was so angry that he laughed and said angrily, "The reason why Zhanshan City is unhappy with you is because of the previous agreement. The Demon Slayer masters who make a living in Zhanshan City are not allowed to enter the Hengduan mountain range to hunt. However, among the many beast kings in the periphery of the Hengduan mountain range, you, Black Snake, have the best reputation. In order to prevent the number of demon beasts under their rule from overflowing, the other beast kings would even organize demonic beast tides to attack human cities on a regular basis. They would hunt down immature humans and plunder the spiritual items in the cities. You are the only beast king who would go against other demon beasts and reduce the number of demon beasts under your rule." Lin Yuan pursed his lips. The reproduction rate of demonic beasts was simply terrifying. In order to reduce the number of demonic beasts under their command, there were indeed some beast kings who acted without any scruples. Fortunately, the purple-eyed youth was only worried that after Lin Yuan's fall, the new Stoneclaw Forest Beast King would become a ticking time bomb for the humans. From time to time, a wave of demon beasts would come to Zhanshan City and not have strange thoughts about Lin Yuan. Only then did Lin Yuan feel relieved. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and asked, "Since you are here, it means that you have chosen a side. First, tell me what kind of help you can bring me." The purple-eyed youth was choked by Lin Yuan's indifferent question. This guy really has no intention of running away and wants to fight to the death with the humans who invaded the Stoneclaw Forest? What kind of confidence did this black snake have? After pondering for a moment, the purple-eyed youth slowly said, "Through my family's connections, I have contacted a group of Beast King-level demon beasts to act as your backing. They can send their demon beasts into your territory at any time and pretend to be your subordinates to fight against the Demon Slayer army." "Stop. Make them scram. The further they scram, the better." Lin Yuan's eyes widened as he directly interrupted the purple-eyed youth's suggestion. Because of Wan Yu, he had recently offended many beast kings. It was hard to say whether those demon beasts that entered his territory would target the humans or him. With such a large group of demon beasts entering the Stoneclaw Forest, how could he rest? "Then what do you want? Do you want me to personally lead my men to pretend to be demon beasts and fight for you?" The purple-eyed young man asked angrily in return. Facing an opponent that he could not resist, he actually rejected reinforcements immediately. Did this black snake not bring his brain with him? I think it's fine, but forget about pretending to be demon beasts. You can just send a group of unfamiliar subordinates to participate in the battle. After that, there will naturally be someone to take the blame for you. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes lit up. Someone to take the blame? The purple-eyed youth's initial anger dissipated as his brain spun rapidly. Suddenly, he thought of a dark organization that had recently risen near mountain-blocking city, the Association of the Demon Emperor. This dark organization had been spreading the news that the ancient demon emperor had reincarnated and was going to rebuild the demon divine court. If one could join the Association of the Demon Emperor, they would have a place in the demon divine court in the future. This ridiculous statement had actually attracted many idle scoundrels to join. There were even quite a number of talented cultivators who wanted to see if they could fight for a future in the so-called demon divine court. Mountain Blocking City and a few nearby cities had repeatedly encircled and suppressed the Association of the Demon Emperor, but they had still failed to eliminate this Association of the Demon Emperor. They had even helped them to clean up a large group of useless people. The remaining members of the Association of the Demon Emperor were almost all elites. They even gradually gained the upper hand in the war against the dynasty's army. The Association of the Demon Emperor? Don't tell me you're the one who created it? The purple-eyed youth stammered as he asked. He suddenly felt that this black snake really deserved to die. Not only had he and the forces behind him infiltrated the Hungduan mountain range, but the black snake had also begun to infiltrate the human race. He had even created a sizable association of the Demon Emperor. If such a demon beast was not killed in the cradle as soon as possible, it would definitely become a major threat to the human race in the future. It's mutually beneficial. Lin Yuan smiled mysteriously as he squinted his eyes and said, "You have a very powerful force behind you, but you're just a pawn in their eyes. If you're not careful, you'll be smashed to pieces. If I, a demon beast, say that I can help you in your official career, then I'm just bragging. Think about it carefully. What if the Demon Emperor secretly supports you? Even your colleagues and superiors in the future might be members of the Association of the Demon Emperor?" Lin Yuan's voice was deep and magnetic, like a devil tempting the world to fall. The purple-eyed youth swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. His eyes that were looking at Lin Yuan slowly lit up. From the perspective of the human heart, no one was truly selfless. He came into contact with Lin Yuan for the sake of his future. However, his family was only so big, and he was not the only outstanding junior. Even if the resources were given to him, he could not monopolize all of them. However, the Association of the Demon Emperor was gradually growing. What if he could occupy a place in it, or even control the Association of the Demon Emperor? His future achievements, limitless. Chapter 147. Lin Yuan naturally took note of the purple-eyed youth's tempted expression. At this point, the purple-eyed young man's inner thoughts were self-evident. However, the power in his hands did not belong to him, so it would not be easy to gather them to participate in the Black Serpent Crusade this time. After pondering for a moment, the purple-eyed youth slowly said, "I don't have many people to mobilize. Apart from you, there are other Beast Kings that I need them to contact. Therefore, I can participate in this war, but my men and I will definitely not appear on the battlefield. At most, we will provide support from the rear." "All right." Lin Yuan nodded his head and said indifferently, "I'll get someone to place the Demon Emperor Association's uniforms in a tavern in Mountain Blocking City. You can arrange for your men to retrieve them." If the Demon Slayer Guild wanted to wage a full-scale war with the Stoneclaw Forest, they would have to go through many procedures. The most important thing was that the Demon Slayer Guild would leave Mountain Blocking City in one batch. They would also have to purchase various equipment and resources in the same batch. After all, no matter how supportive Mountain Blocking City was of this matter, they would not allow these Demon Slayer Guild to change their battle equipment in the city. If the Demon Slayer Guild had ulterior motives and seized the opportunity to seize control of Mountain Blocking City, even the Crown Prince would not be able to bear the responsibility. The purple-eyed youth was about to take over the position of the city lord of Mountain Blocking City. The forces under his command had probably already infiltrated into all walks of life in Mountain Blocking City. With such a powerful ally by the side of the Demon Slayer Guild, Lin Yuan felt that the pressure on him would be reduced by at least 40%. As for the Demon Emperor Association being able to develop to its current scale, it could be said that they had unintentionally planted a willow tree and reaped the benefits. Back then, Lin Yuan had used the words of the ancient Demon Emperor to fool Sunan. Who would have thought that this guy would actually gather a large group of human cultivators with mountain-blocking city as the center? Although it could not be compared to sects or factions, it was still a force that was superior to aristocratic families like the Liu clan who had always been content with their own territory. As for Lin Yuan's reward, it was even simpler. The Crimson Blaze Crocodile King's treasure trove wasn't worth mentioning to Lin Yuan. Furthermore, he didn't have any seedlings that were suitable for consuming fire-type phase. He simply packed them up and threw them all to Sunan. On the other hand, the humans' demand for phase was much more terrifying than Lin Yuan had imagined. Even if the phase that weren't useful were in the hands of humans, they would quickly be used as trading chips to exchange for other resources or help in certain aspects. Almost no phase would be stored. During this period of time, Lin Yuan had been constantly delivering phase to Sunan, and Sunan was rapidly strengthening himself. Lin Yuan didn't expect that the remaining 60% of the useless items in the Red Flaming Crocodile King's inventory would be turned into treasures in Sunan's hands. Sunan had created the Demon the Arch Association with average strength but terrifying growth potential. All right, I'll take my leave first. The purple-eyed youth bowed slightly and spoke with a slightly respectful tone. After leaving Lin Yuan's lair, the purple-eyed youth's footsteps paused slightly. The slightly cold forest wind brushed against his face and extinguished the enthusiasm in his mind. At this moment, the purple-eyed youth finally calmed down from his inexplicably excited state. The smile on his face dissipated and was replaced by a touch of fear. Recalling what had happened previously, the purple-eyed youth's entire body trembled. When he first met the Black Snake, he had the absolute upper hand. After all, the difference in status and strength between the two of them was too great. Therefore, it was almost always him talking while the Black Snake listened, and then the cooperation was finalized. However, as time passed, when he stood in front of the Black Snake again, the Black Snake had firmly grasped the initiative. This Black Snake was no worse than those rich and powerful people who had been rolling in the Vanity Fair for decades. They were all masters at playing with people's hearts. A small movement during a conversation, a change in the expression of their eyes, or even a pause in their sentence could evoke all kinds of emotions in the depths of the communicator's heart. He had warned himself countless times that if this Black Snake was not eliminated as soon as possible, it would sooner or later become a scourge to the human world. However, just like the previous few times, after reminding himself in his heart a few times, he forgot about it. The benefits that the Black Snake gave him were too tempting. He had no reason to reject it at all. In the darkness, the hibernating Lin Yuan turned over, yawned lazily, and slowly closed his eyes. Everything was ready, except for the east wind. Tonight was destined to be a very long night. He already knew the general effect of the World Tyrant song. In the previous conversation with the purple-eyed youth, his momentum had been strengthening bit by bit until he completely took the initiative of the entire topic. If he did not have this skill, the other party's head would have been kicked by a donkey. Otherwise, they would have agreed to mobilize a group of people to participate in the battle under the name of the Demon Emperor Association. 4 hours later, carriages filled with supplies and equipment were slowly being sent from Mountain Blocking City to the periphery of the demonic beast forest. The first batch of vanguard troops had already set off. Furthermore, according to the plan, they were clearing all the demonic beasts and vegetation that were blocking their path. They were striving to directly plow a path through the Sun Pass before the army set off. Sunan, who was wearing a gray gown and a mink fur hat on his head, yawned as he sat in a tea house outside the city gate, sipping his tea. His pair of bright eyes would occasionally fall on the carriages that were transporting all kinds of supplies outside. "Boss, are we really going to attack them?" A little fatty wearing a green gown blinked his eyes and asked somewhat helplessly. Although the Demon Emperor Association had developed very well in the vicinity of Mountain Blocking City, to the point that even the army could not do anything to them. That was because the Association of the Demon Emperor was an underground organization. The other party did not even know the identities of their members. However, if they were to turn to the battlefield, the current Demon Emperor Association might not even be able to withstand a single charge from the cavalry. Sunan cast a sidelong glance at the little fatty and said expressionlessly, "What else can we do? You have been receiving benefits from others every day. Now that they want you to do something, can you not do it? Where are you going to get the spiritual items for your cultivation in the future? If that black snake can survive this time, do you believe that you will be dead the next time you enter the demonic beast forest?" At this point, Sunan paused for a moment. His eyes flickered for a moment before he chuckled and said, "Furthermore, I did not say that we have to fight them head-on. Once the vanguard and the main army have a certain distance, we will just plunder a few batches of supplies and run. No one will be able to find fault with us. We can even make a fortune." Chapter 148. That's not good, right? It's hard to explain to the big boss. The little fatty swallowed a mouthful of saliva and asked cautiously. In the Association of the Demon Emperor that Sunan managed, he was not the true leader. Instead, he was a big boss that did not even exist, and he was just a liaison who ran errands for the big boss. Normally, he did not have much authority in the Association of the Demon Emperor. Only on rare occasions would Sunan issue some orders in the name of the big boss. To put it bluntly, almost all the members of the Association of the Demon Emperor were willing to be human traders and work for the demon beasts. If you were to expect such a group of people to talk about righteousness, loyalty, and etiquette, it would be a fool's dream. Therefore, Sunan's actions allowed him to evade countless investigations and assassinations. As for the Black Snake, it was in existence on the same level as the big boss in the Association of the Demon Emperor. This Beast King who controlled the Stoneclaw Forest and Scarlet Flame Swamp would occasionally send some spiritual items to the Association of the Demon Emperor. It was considered one of the biggest shareholders of the Association of the Demon Emperor. "Don't worry, we're just showing our faces. Others will take care of the rest." Sunan replied casually and said leisurely, "I almost forgot. Go back and pick a few familiar brothers to rob the supplies. Remember to hold back. It's best to leave a few alive so that others will know that this is the work of the Demon Emperor Association." There was no free lunch in the world. If one did not want to contribute much in this battle, one would still want to get enough benefits. Sunan could only choose to obediently take the blame and abandon some pawns appropriately. Just as Sunan was strategizing in the small tea house, he did not notice that a pair of mysterious purple pupils in the dark slowly fell on him. "Are you sure it's him?" The purple-eyed youth stared at Sunan without blinking and gently put the document in his hand on the table. "Yes, his name is Sunan. In his early days, he was a wandering martial artist. Later on, he was recruited by the Liu clan as a hanger-on. After the appearance of the Black Snake, he was sent by the Liu clan into the demonic beast forest to capture the Black Snake. All the cultivators along with him died in the demonic beast forest. Only he managed to sneak back to Mountain Blocking City. Previously, Sunan's life was relatively tight. He was basically living off his savings. Occasionally, he would take on some simple demon hunting missions and enter the demonic beast forest to earn some extra money. However, the frequency of the missions was not high. It was barely enough for him to maintain his previous down-and-out life. Until a month ago, Sunan inexplicably became rich. It was as if he had an inexhaustible supply of spiritual items in his hands. However, during our investigation, we noticed one thing. After this Sunan became rich, the places of entertainment he frequented changed. Other than a small rundown tavern called a slanty, this guy would go to a slanty every day and stay there for at least 2 hours. The subordinate sitting opposite the purple-eyed youth introduced the investigation information in an orderly manner. At the same time, he arranged the documents in files in front of the purple-eyed youth. Those who had close contact with Sunan, the information on the staff and frequent customers of a slanty, the list of cultivators who had received Sunan's aid. "Young master, we have prepared everything you asked for. We are almost certain that this Sunan is one of the important figures in the Demon Emperor Association. Should we arrest him immediately?" "Knock! Knock!" Knock! The purple-eyed youth reached out his hand and gently knocked on the table. His expression did not change at all. His gaze was still fixed on Sunan. After thinking for a moment, he said with a smile, "No, only by casting a long line can we catch a real big fish. As far as I know, the person at the top of the Demon Emperor Association is a person with the code name Big Boss. You have to find a way to find this guy for me first. In addition, identify the identity of the members of the Demon Emperor Association. If it is not necessary, do not arrest them for the time being. With them as the central point, dig out the name list of the entire Demon Emperor Association." "Yes, this subordinate understands." Hearing this, the subordinate nodded heavily. The purple-eyed youth smiled with satisfaction and stopped his finger tapping on the table. Only then did Sunan seem to realize that someone was secretly watching him. He turned his head and looked at the purple-eyed youth from a distance of dozens of meters. The purple-eyed youth revealed a bright smile. Sunan also returned a bright smile. Then, the purple-eyed youth retracted his gaze and looked at the tea and snacks on the table again. He began to savor the food in front of him. The moment Sunan lowered his head, the smile on his face froze. The iconic pair of purple pupils were there, and they were reminding him of their existence in such a way. This guy was indeed as difficult to deal with as Black Snake said. "Fatty, in a while, go to the outhouse and use the third set of code words. Leave a note in the backyard of the tea house. Later, I will find a brother to pick it up. You can write whatever you want, but you have to attract the other party's attention." Sunan slightly lowered his eyelids and slowly said, "We are being watched. Think of a way to find out their background." The fatty expressionlessly stood up from his seat and strode to the backyard of the tea house. At the same time, the purple-eyed youth subordinate also stood up from his seat and followed the fatty to the backyard of the tea house. It seemed that he had no intention of disguising himself. He just wanted to keep an eye on them. "If you want to play games, I will play with you. Let's see who dies first." Hee. The purple-eyed youth and Sunan looked at each other again and whispered to each other in a voice that the other party could not hear. Now that both parties were grasshoppers on the same rope, it was obviously unrealistic to fight to the death here. However, Sunan was also a ruthless person. The Demon Emperor's Association that he had painstakingly established had not even been warmed up yet. It had not even had a good time for 2 days, yet it was already being watched by others. Although the purple-eyed youth was very interested in controlling the Demon Emperor's Association, it was clear that compared to unrealistic complete control, he hoped that after he became the city lord, this faction that had mixed with the demonic beasts would be under his control. At that time, as long as he was willing, he would be able to deal a devastating blow to this organization at any time. Of course, it would be best if both parties could cooperate. The purple-eyed youth's subordinate followed behind the fatty. He did not even deliberately lighten his footsteps. The fatty, who was walking in front, lowered his right hand, and a shiny black dagger suddenly slid into his hand. Immediately after, the fatty's footsteps paused and exploded with an agility that did not match his body size. He turned around and slashed at the neck of the tracker. His attack was unusually ruthless, and he did not even care that there were ordinary people around. Chapter 149. Clang! The fatty's black dagger was accurately blocked by a hidden sword. The fatty raised his eyebrows slightly and made a sound of surprise, but his reaction wasn't slow at all, and he changed his move again. In the blink of an eye, the figures of the fat man and the stalker were almost pulled apart into 2 blurry afterimages. With 5 steps as the boundary, they continued to assassinate each other. The strangest thing was that the 2 people's movements were extremely fast, but their feet never changed their positions. It was as if 2 roly-poly toys were bumping into each other. Clang! The black dagger and the hidden sword collided once again, bringing up a burst of sparks. Sword dancer. Shadow walker. The fatty and the stalker let out a contemptuous sound from their mouths at the same time. Clap! 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 As one of the spectators, the purple-eyed youth gently clapped his hands, stood up from his seat, and said with a smile, "Both of you are top-notch assassins. I think there's no need for this kind of test, right?" The fight between the fatty and the stalker lasted for a full 5 minutes. Don't underestimate this 5 minutes. Humans weren't monsters. They didn't have such a tyrannical physique, and the true chi in their bodies was very limited. If it was a kind of spar, it might be possible to fight for 3 days and 3 nights without panting. However, between the two top-notch assassins just now, every move was full of explosive power. This kind of power exertion was equivalent to exploding with 120 to 140% of the strength in an instant. Often, within 2 or 3 moves, it would exhaust all of a person's strength. The two top-notch assassins fought for a full 5 minutes, not because they were strong, but because they had no choice. Even if they risked internal injuries, they had to fight head-on with each other. Otherwise, if their movements were a little slower, the opponent's weapon might sweep across their neck. A group of trash that can't be seen in the light. How can they be called top-notch assassins? The fatty curled his lips contemptuously and let out a disdainful snort. The sword dancer and shadow walker came from the same origin, but the two went to different extremes with the passage of time. Both sides thought that they were the orthodox, so they couldn't stand the other side. Generally, when they met, it would be a life and death battle. Therefore, the sword dancer was in the south of the dynasty, and the shadow walker was in the north. The two sides maintained restraint, and neither side would easily step into the other's territory. It's still not certain who's trash. The tracker curled his lips in disdain and sneered. I'm evenly matched with you in an open fight. If I really wanted to kill you, do you think 3 strikes would be enough? The purple-eyed young man took 2 steps forward and stopped his subordinate who was about to continue attacking. Then his gaze once again fell on Su Nan as he said with a smile, I don't like to do things without warning. Then, the game between us can be considered to have begun from this point onwards. I hope you won't disappoint me. At the very least, you should let me warm up, right? As soon as he finished speaking, the purple-eyed youth raised his hand and tossed out a heavy bag of money. It glided in a precise parabola and landed on the counter. The shopkeeper of the tea house picked up the purse and weighed it in his hand. His eyes immediately curved into a pair of crescent moons. Even the cheapest copper coin in this bag was equivalent to the turnover of his tea house in 3 days. If it was converted into silver coins, it could even buy his entire tea house. Boss, that guy is a bit troublesome. After the purple-eyed youth left, the disdain on the fatty's face gradually disappeared. He slowly raised his right hand that was holding the dagger. The entire dagger was covered with densely packed cuts, as if it could break at any time. The fatty's right hand that was holding the dagger was constantly trembling. There was even a faint black color that could be seen. Yes, it's a bit troublesome, Su Nan replied somewhat absent-mindedly. Taking a deep breath, Su Nan glanced at the right corner of the tea house. He saw an old man with a goatee gently shaking his head. Only then did he sigh and reach out to pat the fatty on the shoulder and said, Let's go. Our identities have been exposed. While the other party doesn't dare to follow us too closely, let's go to the stronghold outside the city and hide for a few days. According to the old rules, Su Nan left the money for the tea on the table and led the fatty to the backyard of the tea house. Obviously, he didn't plan to leave with the purple-eyed youth. At the same time, after walking out of the tea house, the purple-eyed youth walked side by side with the stalker. The purple-eyed youth said expressionlessly, Is your hand okay? I need to rest for a few days. It's not too big of a problem. The stalker shook his head and retracted his right hand into his sleeve. Drops of dark red blood dripped down. He said in a deep voice, Fortunately, young master stopped me in time. Otherwise, even if I could survive a few more moves, my hand would be crippled. I really didn't expect that fatty to be so powerful. Huh? The purple-eyed youth sneered and said with disdain, Do you think that fatty is any better than you? If I didn't stop you, you would all die together in 3 moves. That guy saw it too. However, he didn't seem to care about his men's lives at all. From the beginning to the end, he didn't have the intention to stop. That guy wanted to play a match with me from the beginning. This kind of chess player is either too confident or has too many trump cards. The stalker was silent for a moment. When he slowly raised his head, his eyes were full of coldness. After a while, the stalker said, If that's the case, then it's not good news. Since Sunan dared to exchange the sword dancer's life for mine, it means that he has other cards in his hand that he hasn't revealed yet. This is not good news for us. Yes, that's why I asked you to keep an eye on them. Once we have enough evidence, we can inform the City Lord's mansion or the demon-subduing guild to attack them. It's indeed very difficult to fight against the Demon Emperor Association with just the men I brought. Let's observe the situation first. Even if they move their stronghold, we can still get a list of names, right? In any case, after I take over as the City Lord of Jianshan City, I don't want such a force to exist in my jurisdiction. Otherwise, when the beast tide comes at night, my Jianshan City might not even be able to close the city gates. The purple-eyed youth stroked his chin and said with narrowed eyes, "However, they have the sword dancer. If you continue to keep an eye on them, you might get into trouble. For the time being, keep a safe distance. Wait for me to deal with the matter at hand before I slowly deal with them." The first battle between Su Nan and the purple-eyed youth ended with both sides suffering heavy losses. However, in a sense, the purple-eyed youth had the upper hand. After all, many of the Demon Emperor Association's members were already online with the purple-eyed youth. As long as he wanted to, he could deal a great blow to the Demon Emperor Association's forces in Jianshan City. Chapter 150. Curly Moon, who had shrunk to the size of a normal snake, was confused. She looked at Lin Yuan, who was coiled up in front of her, and instinctively felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Lin Yuan hadn't caused any trouble for a long time, right? Ever since Bloodclaw died in the Stoneclaw Forest, Lin Yuan had been in a sage mode. How could he cause a war between the mountain-blocking city and the Stoneclaw Forest? Curly Moon was dumbfounded when she heard the news. Moreover, it wasn't just Jianshan City alone. Many demon slayers from the nearby cities were probably attracted by the generous rewards offered by the Liu family. By the time the war broke out, a conservative estimate was that the number of demon slayers that would rush over would not be less than 5,000. Moreover, they had the support of various city lord manors behind them. Their resources and equipment were all top-notch. It wasn't something that a few demon slayers could compare to. Curly Moon looked at Lin Yuan, and Lin Yuan looked at Curly Moon. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. The demon slayers had chosen the perfect time. If they had released the news earlier, Lin Yuan wouldn't have agreed to let Curly Moon enter the Stoneclaw Forest. After all, if all the nearby Beast Kings were mobilized, Lin Yuan wouldn't be much weaker than the humans. It wasn't impossible for him to take advantage of the situation to launch a counterattack. But now, let the surrounding beasts of the Beast King organization come over to help Lin Yuan guard his territory. It was already kind of them not to hit him when he was down. The main thing is I can't tell Sir about this. You know, I've been avoiding Sir recently. Curly Moon replied, feeling a little guilty. The heart of the purgatory was getting closer and closer to maturity. But the relationship between Lin Yuan and the nearby Beast Kings didn't improve at all. Although the Beast Kings gave Sir face and said that as long as Lin Yuan didn't leave the Stoneclaw Forest, they wouldn't do anything to Lin Yuan. But this was obviously far from what Sir had expected. Curly Moon, who had caused all this, naturally didn't dare to meet Sir. Even if Sir sent messengers, she would reject them with the excuse of being seriously injured or not feeling well. The current situation fully explained two things. One, the heavenly Tao is good at reincarnation, but who will the heavens spare? Two, if demons seek death, they will really die. While Lin Yuan and Wan Yu were fretting over this, a flying demonic beast in the outskirts of the demonic beast forest had already alerted them. The first batch of vanguard troops, organized by the Demon Slayer Guild, had already rushed into the monster forest like a hot knife through butter. All of them were airborne realm fighters, and there were a total of 800 vanguards. Lin Yuan estimated that if he didn't put up any resistance, the enemy would be able to rush into the Stenetlan forest in one breath and suffocate Lin Yuan right there and then. The nearby Beast Kings also received the warning, but they all chose to ignore it. Anyway, they all knew who these humans were after. At most, they could just wait for these humans to kill the Black Serpent and take back their territory in the Stoneclaw Forest. Getting rid of a thorn in their side, They could also take the opportunity to expand their territory. It was simply wonderful. Lord Beast King, we are now. The silver-haired Bay slowly walked to Lin Yuan's side with the help of a frost wolf. Its pair of slightly turbid eyes looked up and down, as if it wanted to see how Lin Yuan would deal with it. With the current strength of the Stoneclaw Forest, it wouldn't be a problem for them to arm wrestle with the humans. But it would only be arm wrestling. The Demon Slayer Guild would directly send a punch over. They didn't intend to test each other at all. This time, the humans' tactic could be said to be simple and crude. Wait, Lin Yuan replied expressionlessly as he coiled his serpent body. Oh, wait? Wait for what? The Bay subconsciously responded, but it realized that something was wrong. They were about to rush to your face. What could you wait for? Wait for death. One Yu pondered for a moment, then lowered her voice and said, although I don't know your origins, I can feel that the bloodline in your body is incomparably pure. I estimate that it's not much different from the Orthodox Dragon Clan. Therefore, the person that Lord Beast King chose to pluck must be none other than you. Today's matter is probably within Lord Beast King's control. It's waiting for you to put down your pride and ask for help from the nearby Beast Kings. Once you've learned your lesson, it will naturally protect you. Lin Yuan glanced at his Flood Dragon status bar and was speechless for a moment. He wasn't even an official Flood Dragon right now, but in the eyes of these monsters, his bloodline was already pure. Just how mixed were the bloodlines of the dragon bloodline monsters in this world? He? Beat me? Is it worthy? Lin Yuan silently replied in his heart. Today, as long as he was willing to put down his pride and ask for help from the nearby Beast Kings, he was certain that even if the main force of the humans came, they wouldn't be able to take his life, let alone the vanguard. But from today onwards, he could no longer raise his head in front of Lord Beast King. In the future, he would have to do whatever it said. What do you say? Are you going to ask for help? One Yu tilted her head and looked at Lin Yuan with an expression of listening to him. Of course I'm going. If I don't ask for help, I won't be able to pass this hurdle. Lin Yuan spat out his snake tongue and said with a smile, Old Bay, Zhuing, the two of you go to the nearby Beast Kings and ask for help. Remember, you have to be arrogant. Tell them that if I, Black Snake, die in the hands of humans today, the first thing I'll do before I die is to lead those purgatory monsters to their territory. When Lin Yuan's voice fell, all the monsters present felt their breathing stagnate. Wasn't there something wrong with this method of asking for help? Weren't you the one asking for help? Why did you make it sound like others owed you? Go. Remember to be arrogant. If the other party says no, just turn around and leave. Lin Yuan calmly reminded them. Old Bay and Zhuing of the Hunting Wind clan looked at each other and suddenly felt that this idea was extremely feasible. The Scarlet Flame Swamp was a disaster area. Even the demonic beast forest outside had turned into a barren land. If it wasn't for the demonic beasts that came from the depths of the Hungguan mountain range hunting down the inferno demonic beasts that escaped, a large part of the demonic beast forest surrounding the Hungguan mountain range would have disappeared. Lin Yuan had the assistance of the demon fire prawn, Mo Luo, so he was able to withstand the attacks of the purgatory monsters. However, on the other side of the purgatory fire field, it was a different story. A few territories that bordered the Scarlet Flame Swamp were constantly in war. The current foundation of those territories was even inferior to Lin Yuan, who had been constantly fighting since he took over. As for the monsters that viewed territory as extremely important, they didn't have any thoughts of seizing the opportunity to invade the territories. After all, whoever the purgatory monsters touched now would die a horrible death. Lin Yuan was the only exception. Chapter 151. With Lin Yuan's current relationship with the Beast Kings. Even if Lin Yuan knelt down and begged them, they would not send reinforcements to help Lin Yuan fight against the humans. Thus, begging was far less effective than threatening at this time. After all, the purgatory beasts were not only capable of killing and destroying, they could also summon purgatory flames for a short period of time. Everywhere they went, everything would be scorched, and the number of spiritual items produced in their territory would greatly decrease. Correspondingly, the number of demonic beasts would also greatly decrease. Just look at the Scarlet Flame Swamp. The Scarlet Flame Crocodile King had once been a good father of the desolate demon realm. It could be said that it had abused its power in the Hungduan mountain range. Other than Lin Yuan, the ruthless bastard, there were very few beast kings that had not suffered at the hands of the Scarlet Flame Crocodile King. Every time there was a change in power, the Scarlet Flame Crocodile King would swallow a large piece of territory. The Scarlet Flame Swamp was indeed very large. Strictly speaking, it was at least 4 times the size of the Stoneclaw Forest. However, there were only a few hundred Spirit Awakening Realm demonic beasts and 12 Wisdom Realm demonic beasts that were still alive. Moreover, before the Scarlet Flame Swamp was completely cleared of purgatory flames, there would be no more production. This was the terrifying aspect of the purgatory beasts. Right now, there was a black snake that they disliked in front of them, so their territory was safe and sound. If the black snake died under the demon subduing master guild suppression, the purgatory beast would still spread into the demonic beast forest, but more of them would invade their territory. Thinking along this line of thought, the old wolf and Zhuing's eyes became brighter and brighter. This was not Lin Yuan kneeling on the ground and begging the beast kings to send reinforcements. This was the beast kings kneeling on the ground and begging Lin Yuan not to die. That's right, tell the beast kings that if they send reinforcements, they can directly go past my territory and attack the humans in the demonic beast forest. Don't sneak into my territory in the name of helping out. I don't care what their goal is. As long as they dare to come in, I will definitely kill those ignorant fellows. Lin Yuan narrowed his heterochromatic eyes as he added this sentence. The principle that one must always be on guard against others was especially applicable in the jungle. Although the nearby beast kings weren't stupid enough to destroy themselves, the Green Swamp clan and the other clans whose territories were further away from Lin Yuan didn't think so. In any case, without the Black Snake, there would be other beast kings to help them resist the inferno demon beasts coming out of the Scarlet Flame Swamp. Therefore, killing Lin Yuan was still their #1 priority. Demonic beasts were indeed not as stupid as humans, but they always lacked some principles and lessons. For example, the matter of how the lips are gone, the teeth are interdependent. Only when Lin Yuan pointed it out would they suddenly wake up and feel that Lin Yuan could not just die like this. All right, don't just stand there. Let's go. Lin Yuan patted the ground with the tip of its tail. Only then did Old Bay and Zhuing set off towards the other Beast King's territories. Lin Yuan turned his head and glanced at Na Qin. He said in a deep voice, "How is it? Still no news?" Na Qin nodded. His voice was like thunder as he said, "Yes, Big Brother Min Du disappeared after leaving the Stoneclaw Forest. I asked some of the nearby demonic beasts, but they all said they didn't see Big Brother Min Du, understood?" Lin Yuan responded. He felt a faint headache. He had sent Min Du to investigate the relationship between the Scarlet Flame Crocodile King and the Green Swamp Clan. He didn't expect Min Du to not return. If it were other demonic beasts, Lin Yuan might have thought that Min Du felt that there was no future in the Stoneclaw Forest and fled to another Beast King's territory. But the problem was, Min Du's loyalty to him had already reached the maximum. The Stoneclaw Forest and the Stoneclaw clan. No matter how one looked at it, there was no possibility of Min Du betraying Lin Yuan. "Lord Beast King, do you know something?" Na Qin asked tentatively. Under Lin Yuan's nurturing, Na Qin, whose aptitude wasn't bad to begin with, evolved from a Class 9 demonic beast to a Class 1 Wisdom Realm demonic beast in the past month. His intelligence and strength were far greater than before, especially when Min Du wasn't around. He even vaguely replaced Min Du as the leader. But Na Qin also seemed to be very loyal to Min Du, even when Lin Yuan privately suggested that he replace Min Du and rule over the Stoneclaw clan in the future. Na Qin sternly refused. He said that as long as Min Du returned, he would give Min Du the position of leader. "I have some ideas, but I'm not very sure." Lin Yuan nodded and said, "If I'm right, Min Du should be safe for the time being. After repelling the attack of these humans, I will go and scout the situation. My Stoneclaw clan is willing to be the vanguard." Na Qin cupped his fists. A blazing flame suddenly appeared in his eyes. It seemed that as long as Mandu could return, even if he was told to immediately die, he wouldn't even blink. This child, is he stupid? One Yu quietly moved to Lin Yuan's side and asked. As a veteran wisdom realm demonic beast, although Wen Yu wasn't as old as the three-eyed ape, according to the age of demonic beasts, if the three-eyed ape was in his twilight years, Wen Yu should be in her prime. In her eyes, Nachin could only be considered a child at most. Of course, at this moment, Wen Yu couldn't tell that Lin Yuan wasn't even a year-old demonic beast. After all, Lin Yuan's body was already close to 300 meters long. Except for him, who would grow in size every time he advanced, the other demonic beast bodies were all slowly growing. This is called being honest. Lin Yuan rolled his eyes and unhappily replied. Then he turned his head to look at Nachin and indifferently said, based on the progress of the Demon Slayer Vanguard, they will need at least 5 more days to break through the demonic beast forest. In these 5 days, there will naturally be other demonic beasts blocking them for me. What we need to do is to make preparations and wait for the final battle. Unlike Lin Yuan's indifference, when the surrounding beast kings received the news from the old wolf and Zhu Ying, they all flew into a rage. What was wrong with this black snake? Didn't it even have the attitude of asking for help? They weren't the kind of beast kings that didn't have much foresight. As long as the black snake was willing to lower its stance and talk to them and give them some benefits, what was wrong with sending troops to repel those humans? Why did it have to use such a threatening method to communicate with them? Did these beast kings not care about face? Okay, we will go back and reorganize the demonic beasts under our command. Those humans wantonly invading the Hungduan mountain range means that they don't put us beast kings in their eyes. Even if the Black Snake Beast King didn't say anything, we will not shirk our duty. After an awkward silence, the nearby Beast Kings still chose to follow their hearts. Chapter 152. Demon Beast Forest. A golden-haired archer with 2 pointy ears was carefully moving through the forest. All of a sudden, the archer's ears twitched. He quickly turned around, drew the bow, and released the arrow. This set of movements was as natural as moving clouds and flowing water. The arrow that left the bowstring accurately shot through the head of a black lizard. A level 8 monster beast that was famous for its stealth and assassination didn't even have the chance to attack. It was killed by the arrow of the other party in a second. Oh, not bad. In the darkness, a cold voice sounded. The archer's handsome face didn't have the slightest ripple. He just silently put away the longbow and stepped forward again. Ta! Ta! 2 footsteps sounded. A cold dagger was placed on the archer's neck. The attacker also slowly revealed his figure. It was a young man wearing a purple martial arts robe. He looked to be in his 20s. His body was thin, and his skin showed a kind of sickly pale color. His black bangs drooped down and covered his eyes. But even so, the archer could feel that there was nothing but ruthlessness in his eyes. I say, with your strength, isn't it better to follow the archer group of the main force? The black-haired young man licked his lips and coldly said, You have to be the vanguard to open the path in the demon beast forest. Don't you know that once an archer like you is alone, you will only have a dead end? Chi, the archer, sneered. Immediately, a trace of ridicule flashed across his handsome face. He slowly said, 800 vanguards, in addition to the demi-humans like me, are criminals with bloody hands like you. Follow the main force? Well, you can follow them. Hearing the word criminal, the black-haired young man's wrist moved. However, a sharp arrow quietly pressed against his chest. He was confident that his blade was very fast. But when he cut the enemy's throat, this sharp arrow would also penetrate his chest. Indeed, the 800 vanguards were either criminals or demi-humans with demon beast blood mixed in their bodies. They had to unconditionally participate in any war and were often assigned to the vanguard battalion. Under such high pressure, these fellows' minds were not normal. These 800 vanguards, in addition to hunting demon beasts, were also hunting each other. It had already been more than 8 hours since they entered the demonic beast forest. In these 8 hours, The number of vanguards that had died at the hands of their own people had already reached 300. The remaining vanguards had already dispersed long ago. In this forest, everyone was the hunter, and all other life forms were the prey. Shadow Walker, Siasiu. Want to team up? The black-haired young man took the lead and showed a bright smile to the archer. However, the hostility in his eyes didn't weaken. Xiao In, from Emerald Forest. The archer nodded and put the arrow in his hand. The two top hunters joined forces and once again cast their gazes into the forest. Similar scenes were not rare. Just like how ferocious beasts would never associate with a flock of sheep, these vanguards either formed small but high-quality teams or simply continued to move alone, clearing out other demon beasts and their comrades along the way. On the other side, in Lin Yuan's lair, criminals? Demi-humans? Hunting each other? Interesting. The corner of Lin Yuan's mouth rose slightly. He nodded at Na Qin, who was using spider sense to monitor. These vanguards moved very quickly, and the strongest group had already entered the range of the admirable spider sense. In reality, the range of the admirable spider sense was mostly within the demonic beast forest. At most, it could only cover less than 1,000 miles of the Stoneclaw forest. After all, he had the territory model, and the system would naturally notify him of anything that happened within his territory. He didn't particularly need the spider sense skill. The vanguards that were hibernating in the demon beast forest still didn't realize that they had walked into a spider web that Na Qin had already weaved. Lord Black Snake, how should we deal with these vanguards? The corner of Na Qin's mouth twitched. He felt that he couldn't understand these humans. Nominally, they came to crusade against the Black Serpent, but after entering the demonic beast forest, they decisively removed the layer of civilization on their bodies and did not hesitate to kill their own comrades. Just the number of corpses that he had scouted out numbered in the hundreds. Each of the corpses was too horrible to look at. Even demonic beasts would find it difficult to create such a badly mutilated corpse. Communicate with them and see if we can take them for our own use. Lin Yuan's gaze fell on Su Nan, who was standing beside him, and said expressionlessly. Na Qin understood and quickly reported a few coordinates to Su Nan. Yes. Su Nan nodded slightly and kept quiet out of fear. The last time he saw Black Snake was only 2 or 3 months ago. At that time, Black Snake was only a Class 7 demon beast. But now, Black Snake had already entered the wisdom state. If Su Nan hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would definitely scoff at such a terrifying advancement speed. He would think that it was just a fantasy story. However, seeing this scene at this moment, Su Nan became more and more convinced that Lin Yuan was the ancient demon emperor. Demi-human. Lin Yuan lightly chewed on this title. A hint of playfulness flashed across his heterochromatic eyes. The elves and beast men from the fantasy novels in his previous life actually existed in this world. However, they didn't have the qualifications to challenge humans in this world. In the territory of the 7 great empires, their lives were worse than pigs and dogs. Then, was it possible to take such a force for his own use? Su Nan bowed slightly and casually picked a few assassins from the association of the Demon Emperor and slowly disappeared into the forest. Ever since the death of the three-eyed ape, humans had been eager to test the hunting rights of the Stoneclaw forest. Including this time, humans had already organized 3 large-scale wars. The first was for Blood Spirit, the second was to cooperate with the Liu family, and this time, they were directly targeting Lin Yuan. The repeated provocations had already pushed Lin Yuan's patience to the limit. This time, if the main force of humans could withdraw from the demon beast forest, it would be his loss. Outside Jianshan City. Move out! The purple-eyed youth expressionlessly put on a black mask on his face. Behind him, there were 35 human cultivators wearing the association of the Demon Emperor's uniform. All of them were in the airborne realm. Following the purple-eyed youth's order, these cultivators put on the masks in their hands simultaneously, drew the standard sabers at their waists, and walked toward a supply team that had just left the line of sight of Jianshan City's sentry tower. Chapter 153. It's snowing? Lin Yuan slowly raised his head, and a light flashed in his heterochromatic eyes. From the time he came to this world, it should have been at most a year, right? From a weak little black snake that could only devour mice, he had become the all-powerful beast king of today. Pure white goose feather snowflakes slowly fell. Very quickly, the earth was dyed white. According to Na-Chin's spider sense, the vanguard was still slowly advancing. Their numbers had already been sharply reduced to 150. The top assassins, under Su Nan's command, had already come into contact with the demi-humans that Na-Chin had given the coordinates to. However, both sides were at daggers drawn and had yet to speak. The other Beast Kings have already dispatched their troops. Zhu Ying slowly walked behind Lin Yuan and said in a low voice, "In the few territories bordering the Stoneclaw Forest, there were 3 Beast Kings that could be considered as capable. One was a level 4 Wisdom Realm white deer. It was said that the bloodline in its body was noble. In the depths of the Hengduan mountain range, there was a powerful but few tribe. Every word and action carried a lot of weight in the Hengduan mountain range. Even the Red Flame Crocodile King had to be courteous when it saw this white deer beast king when it was alive. One was a level 3 Wisdom Realm King Kong. It was said that it was a branch of the mountain-shaking ape tribe. It didn't have the ability to control rock elements like the mountain-shaking ape, but its body was incomparably tyrannical. It could be said that it was invulnerable. Ordinary sharp weapons couldn't even scratch its skin. There was also a Kolpon crane. Its strength was unknown. Its territory wasn't large. It was only about a third of the Stoneclaw Forest. However, the monsters that lived there were all Wisdom Realm monsters. That place was like a meat grinder that would never stop. Every day, countless Wisdom Realm monsters would become the food in the stomachs of other monsters. Although the remaining Beast Kings had the title of Beast King, their actual strength was very laughable. Any of the 4 great clans at their peak would be able to sweep away those so-called Beast Kings. Unfortunately, Blizzard, Boulder, and Pingxio were existences that had been suppressed by the 3-eyed ape for most of their lives. They simply didn't think of leaving the Stoneclaw Forest. Otherwise, the surrounding Beast Kings would have to change sides. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment, then turned his head to look at Su Nan and said with a frown, "Go and urge them. If those Beast Kings see me in contact with humans, even if they don't say it out loud, they will still find trouble with me in private." "Yes." Su Nan bowed slightly and turned around to pick out a few subordinates. However, this time, Su Nan did not let his subordinates directly contact the scouts. Instead, he personally led the team. At the same time, at the edge of the Demon Beast Forest, within the main camp of the demon-subduing masters, an old man with iron gray hair and beard stood up. His figure was tall and slender, and at a glance, he was full of muscles. If it weren't for the deep wrinkles on his face, one wouldn't even be able to tell that he was an old man. "How long has it been? Why hasn't the rest of the supplies arrived yet?" The old man took the coat handed over by his subordinate and put it on. He cursed, "Is my Shenwu dynasty rotten to the core? In such a deadly war, how dare these little bastards delay the supplies? Do they want to drag it out until those mountain and river lords of the Hengduan mountain range join the war?" The demon-subduing masters wanted to launch a blitzkrieg. Taking advantage of the fact that the big shots in the depths of the Hengduan mountain range had yet to react, he directly swallowed the black snake and the Stoneclaw jungle in one bite. When he turned around and wiped his mouth, who would still recognize the contract between the previous city lord and the 3-eyed ape? Yes, yes, yes. They're too ignorant. "Commander, please calm down. I will go and urge them." Before the subordinate at the side could finish his words, the tent was suddenly opened by someone. Immediately after, a figure covered in blood rushed into the tent. He shouted at the old man in an incomparably mournful voice, "Commander, bad news. Our first batch of supplies has been robbed. The brothers in charge of escorting the supplies are all dead. Their heads were chopped off and turned into decorations. There were also many traps set up. Some of our brothers in the scout team wanted to collect the corpses, but they were ambushed. We lost close to 60% of our men." Hearing such bad news, the commander's body swayed slightly, and he almost fell to the ground. The first batch of supplies had been robbed. That meant that their main force could only march so far. If they went any further, it would mean that their supply line was cut off. Everyone could only bring what was left of their rations to fight the demonic beasts. Just thinking about such a life was a kind of torture. More importantly, the 800 Vanguard members were all crazy. Setting up traps and poisoning the water source was a basic operation. Following behind this group of people, wanting to find usable supplies was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Who dares to rob our demon-subduing masters? The old man steadied himself and panted heavily. His eyes were red as he asked, "I didn't see any living people. However, there were a few corpses on the ground. Other than our brothers, the rest of the dead were dressed the same. They were all the handiwork of the Demon Emperor Association." The scout, covered in blood, thought for a moment before replying in a low voice. In fact, they all knew that since the other party could chop off the heads of the corpses to make decorations and set up traps near the corpses, how could they not have the time to take away the corpses of their own men? Obviously, this was either a show of force or a framing. The scout thought about it and felt that the other party was more likely to be a show of force. After all, a group of people who believed that the ancient demon emperor had revived and was about to break the rule of the 7 great empires and rebuild the ancient demon court were also extremely crazy. They were the type that never took the normal path. Demon Emperor Association, it's them again. The old man clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth as he muttered, "Send people to the demonic beast forest. No, don't bother about those Vanguard members. A group of sinners and demi-humans. Once they leave our sight, it's the same as personally unlocking their shackles. If we don't kill a group of ferocious beasts like these who have been let out of the iron cage, there's a possibility that they will devour their masters at any time." The old man narrowed his eyes slightly and said in a deep voice, "Inform everyone on duty. Other than the necessary defense, everyone else is to disperse. Go to the rear and capture those bastards from the Demon Emperor Association." "Captain, this..." The close subordinate opened his mouth and said helplessly, "Those members of the Demon Emperor Association are all lunatics. If we disperse our men, it's hard to guarantee that they won't attack the camp. Once something happens to the camp, I'm afraid the morale of the army will immediately collapse. By then, the entire situation will be out of control. Captain, please think twice before you act. Captain, please think twice before you act." The servant, who was covered in blood, knelt down on one knee and echoed in a deep voice. After being schemed against by the Demon Emperor Association, he was now extremely terrified. He would rather dive into the demonic beast forest and kill the demonic beast than face the Demon Emperor Association again. Chapter 154. Think thrice before we act? Tell me, how do I think thrice? The old man asked with a gloomy face. At this rate, if we don't resist, the association of the Demon Emperor will continue to nibble away at our supplies. When the time comes, the entire supply line will be broken, and none of us will have a good life. But we can't just scatter our men. We must leave some spare men in the camp." The subordinate licked his lips and argued, "Moreover, as long as we scatter our men, the association of the Demon Emperor will definitely think that we don't have enough men. Who knows? They might really attack. At that time, wouldn't it be perfect for us to catch a turtle in a jar?" Inside the tent, the 3 men were arguing. At this moment, outside the camp, the purple-eyed youth, who was wearing the mask of the association of the Demon Emperor, slowly raised his right hand. His clenched fist slowly loosened. Immediately, 18 assassins wearing the association of the Demon Emperor's uniform swaggered over the wooden wall where the sentinel was assassinated. Their cold eyes were fixed on the tents that had been set up. "Remember our mission. Don't linger. Leave after setting the fire," the purple-eyed youth whispered again. After receiving the affirmative answer from his subordinates, he slowly nodded his head and took the lead to rush into a tent. After a moment, the sound of throats being cut and groans slowly came out from the tent. The rest followed suit. They each chose their own targets and flew into the tents. A swift and silent slaughter was quickly unfolding. In fact, Although the subordinates of the purple-eyed youth could be said to be well-trained, they were still far from professional assassins like the Shadow Walker. If the ones resting in the camp were the members of the advance party, then this assassination operation would have ended before it started. It was a pity that all the beasts and hunters had been released into the monster forest to fend for themselves. As for the main force that was left to build the camp in the periphery, it was a bit of an insult to them to call them young master soldiers. In any case, they had lived around the Hungduan Mountains for many years. Their strength and experience were actually not bad. However, the long-term comfort made them forget to maintain the most basic vigilance, so as to avoid not being able to react when danger approached them. Shaking off the blood on the dagger, the purple-eyed youth walked out of the tent. With a gentle toss of his right hand, a fire seed landed on the tent. Hula! In an instant, a huge fire rose. In the distance, some cultivators wearing the attire of the Yao Emperor's Association were fighting with Demon Vanquisher Master. The purple-eyed youth was not surprised by this. After all, he had only brought a group of bodyguards assigned to him by his family. They were not professional assassins, so it was only a matter of time before they were discovered. But now, the purple-eyed young man glanced around and saw that nearly one-third of the tents had been set ablaze. He nodded his head in satisfaction. He put his finger to his mouth and whistled. Then, he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and swiftly rushed out of the camp. The surrounding subordinates who could quickly escape from the battle also forced their opponents away. They didn't even look at their comrades who were still in a bitter battle as their figures swiftly swept away. At this moment, the old man in the overcoat walked out of his tent with large strides. Looking at the burning camp, the old man's face kept twitching. He had guessed that the Yao Emperor's Association's next move was to attack their camp. However, he thought that no matter how arrogant these people were, they should at least know what it meant to court death and what it meant to launch a surprise attack. In the end, the other party's movements were too clean. He hadn't even sent his men out yet, but the other party had already completed the entire plan to attack the camp. They were so skilled that it was as if they had practiced it countless times and then performed it for the spectators who had already been buried in the sea of fire. "Bastard, where do you think you're going?" The old man roared and rushed forward. His right fist seemed to carry the force of 1,000 caddies as it fiercely smashed into the body of one of his subordinates, directly smashing him into a pile of meat paste. From the moment the old man started to the moment he stopped to gasp for breath, he had only walked a total of 300 steps. However, in these 300 steps, he had killed 8 cultivators who were charging forward without any regard for their own lives. In order to cover the retreat of their teammates, these people actually took the initiative to endure the attacks of their opponents and used their bodies to buy time. It's a big fish. The old man had been defeated twice in a row. However, a hint of eagerness flashed in his eyes. There had never been a true death warrior in this world, especially those who walked to the extreme. They valued their own lives more than anything else. If they were willing to sacrifice themselves for their comrades, then there was only one possibility. There must be an extraordinary person among those who had just escaped. "Chase!" The old man called out to his team members, and then rushed in the direction of the purple-eyed youth. At this moment, the other leaders of the demon-subduing group slowly walked out of their tents. Some of them even had sleepy eyes on their faces, looking as if they had just woken up from a dream. When they woke up, they realized that nearly a third of their tents had been completely set on fire. The flames were almost shooting up to the sky. "Quick, put out the fire!" Although the pale-faced Hua Sanyang didn't understand why things had turned out this way, she was a strong career woman. Therefore, she reacted faster than the other demon-subduing masters. While commanding the noisy and panicked demon-subduing masters, she began to circulate the true chi in her body to suppress the flames. No one noticed that the demon-subduing group, led by the old man, had quietly left the camp and separated themselves from the main force of the demon-subduing masters. This was because everyone's attention was completely focused on the sudden fire. They really did bite me to death. The purple-eyed youth led his 5 remaining subordinates and sped through the demonic beast forest. There were about 30 demon-subduing masters following behind him. The leader was the old man he had met before. Almost there. Almost there. The purple-eyed youth kept encouraging himself. Even though his body had reached its limit, he didn't show any signs of slowing down. This was because he knew that if he was caught, all he had to do was show his identity. No matter how bold the other party was, they wouldn't dare to do anything to him. However, if that happened, all his efforts would go down the drain. Even the family behind him would no longer have a place for him. This was because they could tolerate him being friendly with the demonic beasts. Roping in a group of demonic beasts to deal with another group of demonic beasts wasn't a problem. However, they absolutely couldn't tolerate him mingling with the demonic beasts, or even directly joining the demonic beasts to fight against the humans. His family couldn't afford to lose face like this. Chapter 155. Huff. The purple-eyed youth let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally arrived at his destination. Only 2 of his subordinates were left behind. Almost all of them had fallen behind and were killed on the spot by these guys. They didn't even get a chance to question them. Run! Why aren't you running anymore? The old man's mocking voice sounded behind him. Although he wasn't a demon slayer who made a living in Jianshan City, he had heard of the famous Stoneclaw Forest. After all, not all demon beasts could subdue the humans near their territory and force them to sign a series of unequal treaties with them. Old mister, have you ever heard of the saying, "Don't enter the forest when you see it"? The purple-eyed youth faintly smiled and pressed the association of Demon Emperor's mask on his face. He slowly said, "Although I don't know who you are from your reaction speed, compared to those amateur demon slayers, you should have spent some time in the army, right? To be able to train to such a level. Could it be that you're a member of Demon Suppression?" The old man's expression didn't change in the slightest after the purple-eyed youth exposed his background. He only paused for a moment, narrowed his eyes slightly, and said, "You even know about Demon Suppression? It seems that my guess was right. You're really a big fish. If I can catch you, even if Jianshan City is lost in the end, I'll still be able to receive a large sum of money and live out my old age peacefully. It's a pity that you won't be able to live out your old age." The one who spoke wasn't the purple-eyed youth, but Lin Yuan, who slowly slithered out from the darkness. The huge black snake stood behind the purple-eyed young man. The visual impact of this scene was quite terrifying. Even the old man was stunned for a while before he could react. After all, it wasn't that there weren't any organizations similar to the Association of Demon Emperor, but most of them were people with evil intentions. They used the name of a powerful demon beast to do some unforgivable things. Just like the few most famous ones in the Hengduan mountain range. They would have a large number of followers, but in fact, they didn't know any of these followers. However, the scene before his eyes had indeed overturned all the old man's previous understanding. This guy was actually related to demon beasts. Damn it! The old man cursed in a low voice and frowned. "We have to report this." Thinking up to here, he subconsciously raised his head, only to see Lin Yuan, who was standing behind the purple-eyed youth, slowly revealing a cold smile at him. Immediately, the old wolf, Wan Yu, Na Qin, Zhu Ying, and the other monster beasts all appeared beside Lin Yuan. Pairs of ruthless eyes fell on the old man. In an instant, the old man gave up on the idea of a head-on breakthrough. But the moment he turned around, he saw countless cultivators wearing the uniforms of the Association of the Demon Emperor. They all had a mocking look on their faces, as if they were looking at a group of mice that they had sent to their plates. "The fire is really big." Lin Yuan narrowed his heterochromatic eyes and whispered. But to the old man, these words were especially ear-piercing, because at this moment he realized that apart from a few members near him, no one else had followed him into the monster beast forest to capture the purple-eyed youth, who was suspected to be a member of the Association of the Demon Emperor. In other words, he was now completely alone and without help. It was impossible for him to charge out on his own. Therefore, his fate would completely depend on Lin Yuan's mood. The 30 or so monster slayers who came with Lin Ding had completely given up on resisting. After all, there were more than 10 intelligence perception realm demon beasts in front of them, and at least 100 Association of the Demon Emperor members behind them. No matter which side they chose to break out from, they would be courting death. The only thing they could do now was to form a defensive formation and wait for reinforcements to arrive. You're called Lin Ding, right? Lin Yuan spoke again, instantly activating the tyrannical song of the world. His voice had an inexplicable majesty to it. Yes, the old man nodded. For some reason, he subconsciously answered Lin Yuan's question. Right now, the lives of you and your brothers are in my hands. If I raise my hand, none of you will die. But if I don't speak, even if you stubbornly resist, you will be exhausted to death by me sooner or later. Am I right? Lin Yuan opened his serpentine mouth and asked again. Yes. Lin Ding nodded again, subconsciously agreeing with Lin Yuan's question. Even his mind gradually went blank. For a moment, he even thought that Lin Yuan's words made sense. Then from now on, you will answer whatever I ask. If I'm not satisfied with your answer, or if you're lying to me, I won't give you a second chance. A cold glint flashed across Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was extremely magnetic. Lin Ding couldn't help but listen carefully. 10 minutes later, the raging fire was finally extinguished. A monster slayer with a face full of soot frowned and said in a deep voice, "This isn't right. I've already cleaned up the corpses of our brothers. Why is there no news of Captain Lin Ding and his team members? I saw Captain Lin Ding chasing after them. Do you want to go and take a look?" Another cultivator, who was in the middle of transporting resources, casually added, "Forget it. I know my own strength." The cultivator who asked the question first took a deep breath. This was the periphery of the demonic beast forest. Even if the members of the Association of Demon Emperors didn't come looking for trouble, the rioting demonic beasts were enough to give him a hard time. What was the difference between going out alone and seeking death? The cultivator who was transporting supplies thought carefully. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Speaking of which, although this isn't a big deal, it's definitely not a small matter either. Close to a third of the campsite is on fire. Captain Lin Ding happened to be on duty. No matter what, he should give us an explanation, right? Why did he just run away? Could it be that Commander Lin Ding embezzled that batch of supplies and ran away with his men?" "Don't talk nonsense." A monster slayer who was passing by frowned. His expression was somewhat unfriendly. After all, he was a member of Lin Ding's monster slayer group. After putting out the fire with great difficulty, he realized that his captain and many of his brothers had disappeared. Compared to the other monster slayer group's ridicule, they were the ones who were in the worst mood. Besides, Lin Ding had been a monster slayer for close to 20 years. His reputation had always been good. There had never been a case of him stealing anything from his employer. In addition, close to 80% of the supplies this time were sponsored by the city lord residents. They would have to return them after they finished using them. After all, they were all equipment and supplies from the city guard army. Why did their captain steal all these things? Did he have a death wish? He wouldn't be able to get past the checks of the other cities with these things. Could their captain cross the Hunduan Mountains and go directly to the other empires? Chapter 156. Lai Shan, Hua Sanyang, Blind Qin. Lin Yuan muttered these three names with an expressionless face. Even if he wasn't a native of this place, during his time as a beast king, he had heard a lot of these names from the mouths of the Gravel clan and the wisdom perception monster beasts that had come to rely on him. Almost every one of them had their hands stained with the blood of countless monster beasts. Especially that guy nicknamed Blind Qin. Quite a few beast kings that weren't weaker than the three-eyed ape had died in his hands. That year when the three-eyed ape swept through the entire Zhanshan city, this Blind Qin just happened to be participating in a mission similar to the Black Snake Crusade in another city. Otherwise, the city lord wouldn't have signed such a shameful contract. As for Lai Shan and Hua Sanyang, they could be considered as rising stars in recent years. Although they were very famous, they had never taken the head of a Beast King-level demonic beast before. Lin Yuan reckoned that the one this group of people wanted to kill the most wasn't the possessed Fang Tian, but Lai Shan and Hua Sanyang. After all, killing a Beast King and killing an ordinary demonic beast had a completely different treatment in the Demon Subduing Master Association. Is it very troublesome? Wanyu narrowed her eyes slightly as a cold glint flashed past. It wasn't a demonic beast from the periphery of the Hungduan mountain range. The Demon Subduing Master Association was getting worse with each generation. In the early years, the entire Hungduan mountain range was a hunting area for humans. But now, humans wanted to use the demonic beasts in the Hungduan mountain range to restrain each other's military power. Most of their attention was focused on the other 6 dynasties. Therefore, as long as one left the periphery of the Hungduan mountain range, it was almost impossible to find the human demon subduing master. One you really didn't know about these guys who only had a little reputation in Zhongshan City. It's not troublesome. I just want to confirm who is the one courting death. Lin Yuan calmed his mind, and his eyes once again blossomed with vigor. He sneered. These demon-subduing masters all think that they can eat demonic beasts alone just because their strength is a few stages higher than the demonic beasts. I think they've all forgotten that the physique of demonic beasts below the heaven realm is like mud. A swordsman who could cut down demonic beasts of the same realm? Lin Yuan wanted to know if he could cut through his flood dragon scale armor with the second stage golden body technique. A woman with countless bootlickers? Lin Yuan also wanted to know if her lovers would have the guts to enter the Stoneclaw Forest to seek revenge after he turned her into a skeleton. The only person worthy of Lin Yuan's apprehension was Blind Qin. This man's real name was unknown, and the only thing he had was a battle record that reeked of blood. Normally, he did not reveal himself, but when he bared his fangs, even running away was an extravagant hope. Ever since the three-eyed ape and the other older generation of demonic beasts had passed away, only Lin Yuan and Min Du were left in the Stoneclaw Forest. Other than a few beast kings that had been sent down by their clans to train, the rest of the beast kings were at most Wisdom Realm Level 3. If they were placed in the depths of the Hungduan mountain range, they wouldn't even be able to hold the position of commander in the Green Swamp clan. In the previous era, Blind Qin was a ferocious person who shook the entire Hungduan mountain range. After all, the three-eyed ape was already extremely close to the Mountain Lord realm. If Blind Qin could kill a few demonic beasts on the same level as the three-eyed ape, this meant that Blind Qin was most likely a Heaven Realm expert. At the very least, he had touched the threshold of the Heaven Realm. Lin Yuan's gaze paused on Wanyu for a moment. He organized his words and slowly said, "If I let you fight with a Heaven Realm expert, how long can you last? I've never fought before, so I don't know." After a moment of silence, Wanyu turned her head to the side. Those below the Heaven Realm were all ants. At the Heaven Realm, physique was no longer a human shortcoming. Even demonic beasts like the three-eyed ape might not be able to do much. She was only a Wisdom Realm Level 5 demonic beast. So if she fought with a Heaven Realm expert, wasn't she just courting death? Suddenly, Wanyu turned her head and stared at Lin Yuan with a burning gaze. She said in a deep voice, "You can't be telling me that there's a Heaven Realm expert in the main force of the humans this time, right?" These years, the days in the depths of the Hungduan mountain range had gradually become more peaceful. This was because the 7 empires were afraid of each other. So they set up an unwritten rule that Heaven Realm experts were not allowed to enter the Hungduan mountain range without permission. Even if they wanted to enter, they had to inform the other 6 empires and obtain more than half of their approval before they could enter. However, rules were dead while humans were alive. There were no loopholes in any rules. Heavenly Dipper Realm experts would still enter the Hungduan mountain range, but they would definitely not cause too much of a commotion. Unless there was really a precious treasure that was worth the hatred of the other 6 grand empires. Under such circumstances, only then would a certain grand empire allow their Heavenly Dipper Realm experts to enter the Hungduan mountain range to fight for the precious treasure. Right now, they were only going to suppress a black snake. So why would a Heaven Realm expert appear? I'm not sure. He might be a Heaven Realm expert, or he might just be close. Lin Yuan shook his head. The Hungduan mountain range was also aware of the unwritten rules between the 7 grand dynasties. If Blind Sheen was really in the Heaven Star border realm, if Heaven Realm Expert was truly a Heaven Realm Expert, the Shenwu dynasty would definitely not allow him to run amok. Or it could be said that with such strength, Blind Sheen would not need to stay in a remote and desolate place like Zhanshan City to make a living. He would even have a place in the capital of the Shenwu dynasty, Tianjing City. Even if he's close, he's not someone I can deal with. Wan Yu straightforwardly shook her head and said with a serious expression, "Black Snake, we're only in a cooperative relationship. I'm only doing all this for the sake of survival. However, please don't treat me like one of your subordinates who would rush to their deaths with a single glance from you." But the problem has to be solved, right? A trace of hesitation flashed across Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes as he said in a deep voice, "If you let him go, the Lord behind you might directly intervene. At that time, when he's done flexing his muscles, the nearby Beast Kings might not dare to provoke me anymore. At that time, only death awaits you." "Are you threatening me?" Wan Yu was slightly startled and asked in an unfriendly tone. "I'm just asking. Why are you so nervous? If you're really not a match for him, then I can only compromise this once and unwillingly become the harvester." Lin Yuan sighed and said faintly, "Since I'm going to die anyway, I might as well contribute to the other demonic beasts. Don't you think so?" Wan Yu silently looked at Lin Yuan. She had a feeling that this black snake was hinting at her. What did he mean by, "since I'm going to die anyway"? For example, contributing to the other demonic beasts? "Listen, is this demonic talk?" Wan Yu let out a long sigh and said in a deep voice, "I definitely can't deal with such an existence alone. You have to think of a way to contact the nearby Beast Kings, especially by Lu, King Kong, and Handan Crane." Chapter 157. Huh? Lin Yuan sneered, as if mocking Wan Yu's wishful thinking. After all, Wan Yu, the demon involved, wanted to shirk the responsibility immediately. If the news of dealing with a Heaven Dipper realm powerhouse spread in the circle of Beast Kings, those guys would rather deal with the endless stream of purgatory demon beasts than grit their teeth and use their lives as a weight to bet on Lin Yuan. At that time, the demonic beasts that had just left the territories of the various Beast Kings would probably be called back to their territories by the Beast Kings. After all, no one was willing to offend a Heavenly Dipper realm powerhouse for a black snake that wasn't liked in the first place. Actually, it's not that hard. As long as they are angered and take the initiative to find trouble with humans, wouldn't it be fine once both sides kill each other? Wan Yu suddenly laughed sinisterly. The Demon Subduing Master Guild had a clear goal for targeting the Black Snake. If it wasn't for the fact that they had to pass through the demonic beast forest to enter the Stoneclaw forest, they might not even be willing to provoke the low-level demonic beasts in the demonic beast forest. It was obviously impossible for them to anger the other Beast Kings. But even if they didn't go, someone else would. If it were any other Beast King in Lin Yuan's position, they would have no choice but to wait for death or delay their deaths to invite the Lord to help them. But Lin Yuan was different. He had people. He didn't only have a bunch of demonic beasts under his command. Regardless of whether it was the subordinates brought by the system youth or the Demon Emperor who had already become the designated scapegoat, they all had enough power to accomplish this task. He did not need all the Beast Emperors to be blinded by rage and attack the Demon Slayers. He only needed the Beast Emperors to feel that the humans had entered the Hungduan mountain range not just for the Black Serpents, but for the Beast Emperors as well. "Lord, this is Xiao En, and this is Xia Siyu." Just then, Sun En walked over with a face full of joy. Behind him were two similarly slender and skinny figures. They were the two scouts that Na Qin had mentioned earlier. "You're the so-called Demon Emperors?" Xia Siyu sized up Lin Yuan and pondered for a moment before asking with a face full of disdain. He then lowered his voice and said, "That's all there is to it." Xiaoan was obviously not as talkative as Xia Siyu. He just looked at Lin Yuan impatiently from time to time, as if he was extremely disdainful of Lin Yuan's strength. "Is it important whether I'm the shifter of the arch or not?" Lin Yuan lifted his eyelids and activated Sing Tyrant of the World again. His voice gradually became more dignified. "The relationship between the members of the Council of the Demon Emperor and me is similar to the relationship between the Demon Slayer Guild and the Demon Slayer Guild. If I give them benefits, they will work for me. Therefore, what you should be concerned about is whether I can give you what you need and what price you need to pay in exchange for it. Xiao En and Xiaoxiu looked at each other and saw a hint of interest in each other's eyes. They were not ordinary people. Compared to the majority of the members of the Council of the Demon Emperor, they were more disgusted with human society. However, they did not have the intention to destroy human society. They just wanted to get rid of the prejudice the world had against them. From your expressions, I can roughly guess what the two of you need. Lin Yuan grinned and said mockingly, "But please forgive my bluntness. The reason why you are not liked is mostly because of your background, especially the demi-human called Shaoan. After all, you are an abnormal existence living among humans. I'm not a god, so I can't change other people's views of you. If someone can promise to do all this, then you don't even need to think about it. You can be sure that the other party is lying to you and just wants to squeeze you dry." Xiao En and Xia Xiu kept looking at each other, but at this moment, their eyes flashed with astonishment at the same time. They never thought that the demonic beast in front of them would be so intelligent. Just by looking at their expressions, it was able to tell what they wanted. Just as Xiao En and Xia Xiu were about to speak, they fell silent again. The black snake in front of them was very scary. Just from their actions, he could see the desire in their hearts. This strange way of speaking was as if the black snake had a mysterious mind-reading technique. However, after being spied on by the black serpent, their first thought was not to fall out with him. Instead, they felt that this black serpent was more reliable than the people from the Demon Masters Guild. After all, those people did promise that after killing the black serpent, they would help them wash away the stains on their bodies and let them live like ordinary people. However, they had heard similar promises too many times. Moreover, those people simply treated them as tools and threw them aside after using them, let alone fulfilling their promise. Then I think we have nothing to talk about. Xia Xiu shrugged his shoulders. His eyes were terrifyingly cold. He said in a cold voice, "Thank you for reminding me of a bad memory. So, I am in a bad mood now. Since you are of no use to me, I want to kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Xiu's figure had already dashed out. In just an instant, Xia Xiu escaped into the darkness of nothingness and completely disappeared in front of Lin Yuan. "But I have another way to change the way the world sees you." Lin Yuan was indifferent to Xia Xiu's brazen attack. There was not even a trace of ripple in his heterochromatic eyes. Buzz! The high-speed vibrating dagger hovered in front of Lin Yuan. Xia Xiu's figure also appeared from the darkness. After a moment, Xia Xiu licked his lips and said in a dry voice, "Let's hear it." The Black Snake was not a noble of the 7 great dynasties. It was just an inconspicuous demon beast in the Hengduan Mountains. Although the weight of its promise was not as great as that of those powerful people, it definitely had a certain degree of credibility. Otherwise, it would not have said that those guys were lying to them. It was the same for all living things. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, they would work tirelessly. It did not matter even if it was a moth flying into a flame. Power. As long as you have great power, no one in this world will dare to treat you as an alien. Lin Yuan blinked his eyes and said slowly. Hearing that, Xia Xiu choked for a moment. First of all, he had to admit that what the Black Snake said did make sense. If they possessed a power that even the 7 majestic empires feared, then indeed, no one would dare to say that they were of a different race. In fact, they would even try their best to curry favor with them on the surface, fearing that they would lose their lives if they made them unhappy. Chapter 158. However, that was the crux of the problem. What kind of existence was it that even the 7 empires were afraid of? The Hengduan Mountains? The Dragon Palace of the 4 Seas? Or the sects that were rooted in the 7 empires? Although they were much stronger than ordinary people, in the eyes of the 7 empires, they were just ants that could be easily crushed. They couldn't even fight against the unfairness of fate. They knew that if they fought with their lives, they would only be cheated again and again. However, other than their lives, they had no other bargaining chips. You don't have such power now. It can even be said that you won't have such power in your entire life. Lin Yuan attacked Xiaoxiu mercilessly while swallowing and spitting the snake. Nonsense. Xiaoxiu looked like he was going crazy. He said fiercely, "If I had such power, why would I be sent here as a harbinger? I would have torn those trash outside into pieces long ago." Shaon had already raised his bow and knocked an arrow. He looked at Lin Yuan coldly. It was as if he would shoot Lin Yuan to death if Lin Yuan continued to talk like that. "But I do. If you're willing to cooperate with me, it means that you have such power too, right?" Lin Yuan paused and said again, "Huh." Shaoan suddenly opened his mouth and sneered. "You have such power? Black Snake, do you still not understand your current situation? The Demon Subduing Masters Association has issued a bounty for you. Other than the unlucky ones like us who were forcefully recruited, many experts are rushing to the Hengduan Mountains to take your life. You can't even protect yourself, and you still dare to talk so big?" Shaoan's voice was very cold, just like his attitude all along. It was like an icicle that kept people 1,000 miles away. In a sense, the Black Snake did have power. After all, he was the Beast King of the Stoneclaw Forest. He even had the Demon Emperor Association, a human organization, working for him. But so what? As long as the Black Snake died, all of this would become a thing of the past. What's more, Black Snake's status was even lower than theirs. They were at most slaves and free mercenaries in the eyes of the nobles. But an existence like the Black Serpent was probably only a dish that was about to be served on the dining table. "So, you think I'll definitely lose?" Lin Yuan retracted the snake's forked tongue and asked in a mocking tone. "Humph." Beside him, Wen Yu also snorted coldly, as if she didn't care about the demon slayers at all. At this moment, it had already told Su Nan about its plan. Coincidentally, it saw that the negotiation between Xia Xiu and Lin Yuan was on the verge of breaking down, so it snorted coldly and signaled to the other party to pay attention to where they were first and not to act rashly. Su Nan had already quietly left the area. He still had to take stock of the Demon Emperor Association's forces so that he could attack the territories of the Beast Kings. Even when you had already made a detailed plan of who to attack, which demonic beasts must die, and which demonic beasts must be killed, and which demonic beasts must be killed. Everything was clearly arranged for him, not to mention Su Nan's brain. Even a fool would be able to execute Wen Yu's plan perfectly after knowing it. After all, this fellow was so ridiculous that she had even told Su Nan about the demonic beast's daily routines and habits when they had nothing to do. "Then how about we make a bet?" Lin Yuan smiled, as if the fish had already taken the bait. He said, "The main forces of the Demon Slayers will enter the outer regions of the Hengduan Mountains the day after tomorrow. It will take them at least 5 more days to reach the Stoneclaw Forest. I'll bet with you that in these 5 days, the Demon Slayers will definitely suffer heavy losses and might even temporarily retreat from the Hengduan Mountains. Although they were currently in a corner of the Beast Forest, it wasn't on the route that the main forces of the Demon Slayers had planned. Before the Stoneclaw Forest was broken through, he didn't have to worry about the Demon Slayers coming here." "Bet? That's interesting. What's the wager?" The dagger in Xia Xiu's hand spun. "If I win, the two of you must do something for me. Moreover, you must do it with all your strength. You can't slack off in the slightest. If I lose, you can take my head. I heard that the bounty on my head in the mountain-blocking city's Demon Slayers Association isn't low, right? With this amount of money, you should be able to find a remote place to settle down." Lin Yuan gently swayed his snake tail. Although he was talking about the bet, both his tone and expression showed that he had a card up his sleeve. Shaoan silently put down the bow in his hand. Although his attitude towards the Black Snake was not friendly, he still had the bloodline of a monster beast in his body. When facing humans, he did not feel the slightest bit of warmth. However, when facing the Black Snake, he strangely felt this kind of feeling, as if the Black Snake was his family. He even felt a trace of guilt for not trusting the Black Snake. "All right, I'll bet with you." Xia Xiu stopped the dagger in his hand. A gloomy look appeared in his eyes as he coldly said, "If you lose to me, I guarantee that you won't die a quick death. After all, your words and actions have made me very unhappy." Meanwhile, the main camp of the Demon Slayers, Lai Shan, Hua Sanyang, and a few other captains of the demon slayers were sitting in their seats with ashen faces. There was still no news from the captain who was on duty. The supplies that should have been delivered a long time ago had yet to be delivered. At this moment, the entire camp was shrouded in an irritated atmosphere. It was like a barrel of gunpowder that could explode with just a spark. It was said that when they were cleaning up the ruins that were set on fire today, several demon slayers had come to blows because of the relics they found. If it weren't for Hua Sanyang's timely intervention, there would have been internal strife even before they officially entered the demonic beast forest. We can't just sit and wait like this. Lai Shan's chubby body sat there like a mountain of meat, but his voice was unusually light and lively. Why don't we send someone back to Mountain Blocking City first and ask the logistics department what is going on? Why haven't the supplies we promised arrived? Or we could just give up on waiting and let everyone bring only a portion of dry rations and water into the demonic beast forest. After all, this place produces a lot of food. Other than maintaining everyone's needs, we might also have a fortuitous encounter. When his voice fell, the other captains all sneered. Chapter 159. The upper echelons of the demon-subduing guild were in a heated debate. Should they directly enter the demonic beast forest and obtain supplies from the demonic beasts, or should they send people to Zhanshan City to ask why the first batch of supplies hadn't arrived? These were the two main issues. There were also some neutral parties who wanted to send some people to the surroundings to see if they could find the missing guild leader and find out what had happened on the day of the fire in the camp. Elder Qin, your cultivation is the highest here. Why don't you make a decision? Hua Sanyang cleared her throat and looked at blind Qin with her expressive eyes. Although the relationship between the high-level demon-subduing guild members wasn't good, it was undeniable that no one dared to argue with a big shot like blind Qin. Under such circumstances, blind Qin only needed to say a few words to immediately end the chaos. However, blind Qin clearly didn't have such intentions. Therefore, Hua Sanyang could only take the risk of blind Qin bearing a grudge and forcefully drag him into the water. Guild leader Hua must be joking. This Qin is all alone. It's really inappropriate for me to participate in your discussion. Blind Qin rubbed his chin and said with a smile, however, if you want to talk about my opinion, this Qin actually feels that it's not a good idea to stay here. Everyone has received a mission from the demon-subduing guild. That's why you specially came to hunt that black snake. Our target is only that black snake. The rest of the demonic beasts are just side dishes. We just need to get rid of those who block our way. If we start an all-out war with the Stoneclaw Forest, it won't do us any good. When blind Qin finished speaking, the complexions of several of the demon-subduing group's captains turned ashen. Among them, there were some who belonged to the imperial court. They were only participating in the Black Snake Crusade because they were following orders. The so-called wealth and the life and death of the Black Snake were meaningless to them. What they wanted to do was to incite an all-out war between the demon-subduing guild and the demonic beast royal court in the Hengduan mountain range. After all, although the demonic beasts of the Hengduan mountain range had been running wild for the past few years, the demonic beasts of each region had their own way of doing things. It was impossible for them to pose a particularly serious threat. However, the Demon-Subduing Master Association, which had branches in all 7 dynasties, was different. After all, the Demon Slayer Guild had been fighting demonic beasts all year round. Be it in terms of teamwork or actual combat experience, they were extremely terrifying. As long as they were willing, after undergoing a period of professional training, their strength would definitely not be much weaker than those experienced soldiers. Moreover, the Chamber of Commerce and tycoons within the 7 dynasties were basically connected to the Demon Slayer Guild. If the Demon Slayer Guild's president had any thoughts that he shouldn't have, he could replace any of the 7 dynasties at any time. He could even establish a new 8th dynasty independent of the 7 dynasties. Right now, the imperial court of the 7 dynasties were in a difficult position. Firstly, they didn't have an excuse to make a move against the demon-subduing guild. Secondly, they didn't have absolute confidence in their victory. If they made a move first, they would lose their sense of righteousness and the hearts of the people. Therefore, the Seven Dynasties had always hoped that this organization, which was originally established to weaken the demonic beast's influence, would really start an all-out war with the demonic beast royal court in the Hungduan mountain range. That way, it would be killing two birds with one stone, directly weakening two hidden dangers that were growing day by day. However, before this, the demon-subduing guild had always maintained a restrained way of doing things. No matter how much the imperial court of the Seven Dynasties inflated the price of the demonic beast meat and demonic beast cores, they didn't feel the slightest bit of fluctuation in their hearts. Apart from their own maintenance fees, they didn't even have the slightest desire to make money. This made them feel even more uneasy. Although the Black Snake Crusade, organized by the demon-subduing guild this time, was only to deal with an intelligence perception realm demonic beast king, it was already one of the largest operations of the demon-subduing guild in the past 10 years. The demon-subduing guild that belonged to the imperial court was here to cause trouble. Although the demonic beast royal court didn't put a single black snake in their eyes, if they massacred the entire Stoneclaw forest in one go, then even if the demonic beast royal court was unwilling, they would have no choice but to take the initiative to declare war on the demon-subduing guild for the sake of their reputation and authority. However, Blind Sheen's words were clearly blocking their path. Most of the demon-subduing masters here were here to deal with the Black Snake. As long as they could take the Black Snake's head, they would be able to obtain 40% of the Liu clan's wealth. Even if they were to wash their hands of the Black Snake, they might not be able to spend all their wealth in their lifetime. This was also one of the reasons why the demon-subduing masters from the nearby cities had taken the initiative to come to Mountain Blocking City. Under such circumstances, no lunatic would be stupid enough to massacre the entire Stoneclaw forest and incur the wrath of the demonic beast royal court. Lai Shan patted his stomach and narrowed his eyes slightly. He said in a deep voice, "Old Sheen is right. Our goal in entering the Hungduan mountain range this time is that Black Snake. Even if the rest of the demonic beasts were added together, they wouldn't be worth as much as the Black Snake. Why don't we all push forward together? We'll leave as soon as we kill that Black Snake." Lai Shan's words could be considered watertight. However, while he was speaking, his gaze would sweep past the demon-subduing masters from the imperial family from time to time. He had a threatening look on his face, causing the other party to want to fly into a rage, but they didn't dare to do so. A brute like Lai Shan obviously wouldn't have such a brain. He knew that the imperial family wished for the demon-subduing masters to wage an all-out war with the demonic beast royal court. However, at this moment, Lai Shan and Blind Sheen cooperated and reduced the matter from waging war against the Stoneclaw forest to taking the Liu clan's reward to kill the Black Snake. This way, even if the demonic beast royal court wanted to make trouble after the Black Snake was killed, they could still push the Liu clan out as a scapegoat. Obviously, the demon-subduing masters had already seen through the imperial family's plan. Blind Sheen and Lai Shan were singing the same tune, putting on a show for them to see. At the same time, they were warning them not to have any ideas. Otherwise, if they were killed and thrown into the demonic beast forest, would the imperial family be able to find out who was the culprit from the pile of demonic beast's excrement? You're right. The leader of the imperial family's faction was silent for a moment before nodding in agreement. Outsiders didn't know how powerful Blind Sheen was, but how could they, who had been watching the demon-subduing masters for a long time, not know? Although Blind Sheen was still lingering at the peak of the airborne realm, when one's strength reached such a level, the so-called one step was only one step away. As long as he was willing, he could break through the bottleneck at any time and step into the realm where he could fight against demonic beasts head-on. When that time came, their identities would be useless. In the end, whether they lived or died, it would be up to Blind Sheen to decide. Chapter 160. Since that's the case, why don't we split up? A demon slayer with a resentful expression said. He wasn't a member of the royal family, nor was he a direct descendant of the demon slayer guild. He was just an ordinary cultivator who wanted to retire after a few years of work. At the same time, He was one of the demon slayers who had come here. To be honest, an existence like him would definitely be a small fry on this battlefield. Unless an opportunity descended from the heavens and instantly raised his strength to Blind Sheen's level, there was no way he could compare to the other big shots in terms of personal strength or the influence of the demon-subduing group. The reason he joined the Black Snake Crusade was to kill the demonic beasts of the Stoneclaw Forest. After all, there weren't many missions where he could obtain all the materials of the demonic beasts after killing them, and even receive an additional reward from the employer. Split up? Is there something wrong with your head? Lyshan asked with a strange expression. Soon after, he mocked mercilessly. You can't possibly think that you can charge into the Stoneclaw Forest with just a bunch of weaklings like you, right? Even if the demonic beasts in the periphery of the forest can't stop you, do you think all the high-level demonic beasts in the Stoneclaw Forest are dead? The reason why Beast King-level demonic beasts were hard to kill wasn't just because they were the strongest and wisest existences in their territory. More importantly, every Beast King was surrounded by a large number of demonic beasts. Trying to fight a Beast King against a Beast King was clearly a pipe dream. These weak demon slayers were originally chosen to deal with the Beast King's guards. They seemed like a bunch of dispensable people, but in reality, they played an extremely important role. If not for a big shot like Lyshan withstanding the pressure of those high-level demonic beasts, they wouldn't even be able to charge into the Stoneclaw Forest. On the other hand, if not for them sharing the firepower of those intelligent perception demonic beasts, Lyshan and the others wouldn't have been able to kill the Black Snake. Lyshan's emotional intelligence was clearly not high. After he finished speaking, the faces of many demon slayers turned ugly. These demon slayers were generally not very strong, and they didn't participate in this mission for the Black Snake. Even their own opinions weren't important. They could only choose a few representatives to participate in this meeting. As the old saying goes, don't hit someone in the face, and don't expose someone's shortcomings when scolding someone. Lyshan's words were no different from roasting them on a fire. All right, let's stop arguing. Hua Sanyang sensed that the atmosphere was not right. She cleared her throat and said in a soft voice, "We are all demon slayers who came to fight the Black Snake." So what if there is a gap in strength? It's not easy for everyone to make a living, so please lend a helping hand. Actually, I don't agree with sticking together, but the situation is already like this. Let's put aside our prejudices and push into the Stoneclaw Forest. Let's kill that Black Snake first. What do you think? Hua Sanyang was now in an awkward position. It was true that she wanted to drag Blind Sheen down with her, but she never would have guessed that Blind Sheen was actually one of the Demon Slayer Guild's direct subordinates. The moment he opened his mouth, he had provoked an even sharper conflict. She felt that if this continued, the Demon Slayers would start fighting among themselves before they even saw the Black Snake. Therefore, she could only step forward once more and clean up this mess. Just like that, the main force of the Demon Slayer Alliance had yet to even see a single demon beast, and yet it was already filled with internal strife. Withstanding the immense pressure of this discord, the main force of the Demon Slayer Alliance once again took firm steps forward. However, the demonic beast forest was clearly not as peaceful as these demon slayers had imagined. From the moment they stepped into the demonic beast forest, the demon slayers had been continuously attacked by all kinds of intelligence realm demonic beasts. Even Blind Sheen, who was only a step away from the heaven realm, had suffered greatly. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that the incomparably cunning Black Snake would use threats to force the Beast Kings around its territory to send out their troops to deal with the Demon Slayers. Even more unexpected was that the Black Snake would not even let these demon beasts enter its own territory. Therefore, they could only hurry into the demonic beast forest and quietly wait for the arrival of the Demon Slayer Alliance. Congratulations, host. Mission completed. Fate is too wonderful for words. Mission completion rate, 100%. Mission rating, A+. Mission reward, skill draw X1. Ever since he had entered the Wisdom Realm, the system had been muttering about upgrading itself. However, at that time, Lin Yuan was still in the midst of his battle with the profound ice duck, so the system had not directly upgraded itself. Only now, after Lin Yuan had submitted the mission, did he vaguely feel that the system had undergone some changes. The most obvious change was that the system's broadcast had been completely replaced by an ice-cold electronic voice. There will no longer be a situation where the system assistant announces the broadcast on behalf of the system. In the face of this emotionless prompt method, even if Lin Yuan's speech skill is directly maxed out, he will not be able to learn anything from a shrewdly operating machine related to the system's loopholes. The completion rate of this mission was extremely high. After all, he had killed the profound ice duck and obtained the ice heart fruit. Even the scarlet-eyed mandarin had turned into a purgatory crow after her sister had been devoured by Lin Yuan. After creating a purgatory territory, Lin Yuan had been rewarded with a lot of attribute points and purgatory cores. If Lin Yuan were to evaluate himself, this mission would definitely receive the highest score. However, in the eyes of the system, it was only an A+ grade. After a short period of silence, Lin Yuan suddenly thought that the reason the mission rating was not high might be because the Purgatory Crow had directly destroyed the Scarlet Flame Swamp and blocked Lin Yuan's expansion. After all, although he had not declared his sovereignty, after killing the Scarlet Flame Crocodile King and the Yuanyang siblings, the Scarlet Flame Swamp was such a large territory. Even if the other Beast Kings had any ideas, they would definitely not dare to fight with the limelight of Lin Yuan. With the example of what had happened before, this black snake was truly terrifying. Forget it. Let's start the skill draws. Lin Yuan lowered his head and smiled. He did not dwell on the fact that he did not receive an S-grade evaluation and used his reward. It had actually been a long time since he had last drawn a skill. Although the skills he had were all very powerful, there were simply too few of them. When he was in the Spirit Awakening realm, these skills were completely enough. However, as an intelligence realm demonic beast, only those 3 skills were somewhat insufficient. It was still a familiar operation. 3 balls of light silently floated in front of Lin Yuan, waiting for Lin Yuan to choose. However, this time, the balls of light were slightly different. One was white, one was green, and one was red. Chapter 161. System. What is the meaning of the color division of the skill light? Logically speaking, it was a basic practice to ask questions when one did not understand. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not even look at the 3 skills and summoned the system assistant, Nesting Doll. The doll was silent for a moment, as if it was searching for information. After 4 breaths, it slowly said, as a reward for the host's advancement to wisdom state, when the host draws a skill, the host will be able to see the rarity of the skill. The 7 colors are white, green, blue, purple, pink, gold, and orange. Then what does this red light mean? Lin Yuan tilted his head. He had a feeling that the doll was lying to him. He was no stranger to dividing skills into 7 colors according to their rarity. In the game in his previous life, they liked to use these colors to differentiate the rarity of equipment. Therefore, Lin Yuan was very familiar with this model. However, the doll's introduction did not mention a red skill light, but there was a red light right in front of him. The doll choked on Lin Yuan's words and could only helplessly explain. The red light is not a division of rarity. Skills like this are often things that even the system cannot determine the level of. They often have extremely powerful effects, but they also have very strong side effects. For example, the host's blood sacrifice wishing spell is a red skill. Shocking. Lin Yuan looked at the red light in front of him and was momentarily at a loss. The blood sacrifice wishing spell was a skill on the level of the law of causality. As long as he offered enough sacrifices, there was nothing that this skill could not do. Even if he wanted the water of the 4 seas to stand up, it would not be a problem. He actually got a second skill like this? Did he have an outburst of snake character? White skill, strangle. As a huge python, your strength is incomparably terrifying. The corresponding attack techniques are your instincts. After learning this skill, your strangle strength will increase. Green skill, force field. You, who have mastered extraordinary powers, have begun to use extraordinary powers. Although force fields are not the most powerful of extraordinary powers, they are extremely flexible. As long as you have enough imagination, it can be used in almost any way. For example, cutting, pushing, binding, suppressing. There is no problem. Red skill, appraisal eye, one of the system's standard equipment. It can detect the attributes of all things. Lin Yuan. The karma skill that he had imagined did not appear. The eyes of appraisal was placed there, which made Lin Yuan feel as uncomfortable as if he was being fed feces while walking on the street. The strangulation skill was actually refreshed by him. Wasn't this kind of snake-type innate skill placed here to occupy a position? Lin Yuan directly eliminated the strangle skill. As for the force field skill, it seemed very powerful, but it was still unclear how powerful it actually was. As for the appraisal eye, Lin Yuan always felt that it was a pity to give it up. After all, the system could detect the attributes of items, but it couldn't check the attributes of other living beings or things that didn't belong to Lin Yuan. Moreover, the introduction was a little simple, so Lin Yuan didn't use it often. If the appraisal eye was a skill of another color, Lin Yuan would rather waste a skill draw chance to exchange for it. However, the doll had made it clear that although red skills were powerful, they couldn't be used without limit. This meant that after Lin Yuan exchanged for this skill, it didn't mean that he could detect the awakening of all things as he wished. He had to at least consider if he could afford to pay the price. The first time he used the blood sacrifice wishing spell, it took a full 1/3 of his blood. I suggest that the host exchange for the appraisal eye. The doll's cold voice sounded, taking the initiative to disrupt Lin Yuan's train of thought. It continued, red skills are actually rarer than orange ones. If the host can farm red skills, it's best to exchange for them first. Who knows when they will come in handy? Lin Yuan's big head was full of question marks. Previously, every time he asked for the doll's suggestion, it would either play dumb or remain silent. However, this time, after noticing his hesitation, it took the initiative to suggest that he exchange for the appraisal eye. If there wasn't a trap, Lin Yuan felt that he had wasted almost a year knowing the doll. After all, it wasn't the first time that the system had arranged things for him behind the scenes. Other than the truth, what else could he do? He calmed himself down and exchanged for the appraisal eye skill. Then, Lin Yuan took another look at the system's text introduction, and his face instantly darkened. This thing was indeed a trap. Appraisal eye can detect the attributes of all things. This skill has a certain failure rate. The specific failure rate is determined by the difference in strength between the host and the target. The host can use appraisal eye 3 times a day for free. After the 3rd time, the host will have to pay a certain amount of attribute points each time he uses appraisal eye. The amount of attribute points will be determined by the difference in strength between the host and the target. Damn, it's another one that eats attribute points. After Lin Yuan turned the Scarlet Flame Swamp into a leveling ground for attribute points, he realized that even though he was gaining attribute points faster and faster, there were more and more areas where he needed attribute points. The attribute points he gained were not proportional to the attribute points he had to pay on a daily basis. If King believe you again, I'm a dog. Lin Yuan roared in exasperation. The host was a human in his past life and a snake in this life. Theoretically speaking, you have nothing to do with a dog. The doll replied nonchalantly, not taking Lin Yuan's words to heart at all. Its attitude was extremely arrogant, but Lin Yuan couldn't do anything about it. Thinking that it would be a loss if he didn't use it, Lin Yuan threw an appraisal eye at Xiaoxiu in front of him. Suddenly, Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes shone brightly. Xiaoxiu was slightly taken aback and instinctively took 2 steps back, as if guarding against Lin Yuan's sudden attack. But in the next moment, the light in Lin Yuan's eyes dissipated. The snake's aura withered, as if someone had hit its heart with a heavy hammer. Skill fail. The emotionless system broadcast sounded, as if it was mocking Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was speechless. He knew that this skill had a failure rate, but he didn't expect it to be so high. The blood sacrifice wishing skill also had a failure rate, but it could be increased by relying on sacrifices. How could he increase the success rate of appraisal eye? Should he level up desperately? Or should he use appraisal eye first when he encountered a powerful being and prepare to run if it failed? If he succeeded, he could see if there were any fatal weaknesses in the opponent's attribute panel that he could exploit. What kind of stupid skill was this? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.